CRL West is back, and we've got new rules, new metas, and more Clash excitement than ever.
We might even see the return of the log. With the big bar barrel nerf this season, who knows what could happen? Anything is possible.
So we'll see you back in the arena September 14th for the fall split of CRL West.
Let's go!
Let's go.
Showtime!
Sunday from the OGN Super Arena in Southern California. It will be Clash Royale. In fact, it is Clash Royale coming your way right now. CRL Fall Split. Hi, I'm Rich Slayton. That's Andrew Guy, and we're here for day 2 of our fall season. And after what we saw yesterday, who needs Gravedigger jumping over cars? We have Clash Royale pros going toe-to-toe.
I needed a Gravedigger reference. For those of you that don't know, you got to go back and watch some commercials from the 90s. This is an exciting day. It's an exciting day every day that we have broadcast now at CRL West, because every single day that we have a broadcast, you get to see every single team play. And right now, we've got a big way to end the day, but to start it, we got 2 teams looking for their first victory.
Yeah, Complexity versus Energy will start things off, and we cap off our big Sunday with a rematch of our finals from the spring. SK Gaming facing off against Liquid. And of course, all 6 matches today will be played under the exact same format. Andrew, take it away.
Yes, 2v2 to kick it off. As always, a best-of-3 set. Following that is a best-of-5 King of the Hill set. 3 players from each team come out. Each player has 1 life. And of course, if necessary, we will get to our third and final set, the 1v1 best-of-3 tiebreaker set, where of course your head-to-head specialists will come out and try to take home that W.
And of course, every single weekend is a Clash Royale weekend. Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. on the left coast, 1 p.m. on the right coast. So go ahead, stick around, block out that weekend. And of course, we've already seen 6 go down as of yesterday. And we're starting to see not some big surprises, but a little of our standings begin to take form. And of course, at the top, who else other than Team Liquid?
It's Liquid, the champions of WCG, the champions of CRL West Spring. Team Liquid at the top, followed by, who is that? Misfits Gaming with a big-time 2-0 sweep. And as you guys can see on the far right-hand side, we have sets and game differential for you to follow along with at home. 3rd place, we got Team Queso. 4th, Immortals. 5th place, we have Pain Gaming. All those teams at 1-0. And of course, one more team is also at 1-0. SK Gaming, the number 2 team last season. Following that, we get into the other half of the bracket who have not yet to find a win. Energy, Cream Esports, and Tribe all tied at 0-1 in 7th, 8th, and 9th place. And of course, to round things out, Complexity in 10th, Fnatic in 11th, and Dignitas in 12th, but they are technically tied for 11th with Fnatic.
So that's where we are heading into the action for today. And of course, today we have a really excellent lineup of 4 fantastic matches, as you'll always see here at CRL West. Opening things up today, Complexity versus Energy, followed by Immortals and Cream Esports.
And that's not the whole day. We've still got 2 more. Fnatic going up against Team Queso, looking for their very first victory. And of course, the big one to end the day, number 1 against number 2, SK Gaming going up against Team Liquid.
Of course, today we start off with Complexity facing off against Energy. Of course, Energy now with a very new look, the addition of Buffmac being a major part of that, not to mention the addition of Trainer Dippets.
Yeah, the big thing is that I think Buffmac needs to be available for that 1v1 set. And if we're going to talk about Complexity, I'm very curious to see who they bring out in the 2v2. We all know Colton and Razor is their staple, but it feels like they're trying to switch things up this season.
Nick, you want to be unpredictable, and you and I both believe that Colton and Razor is the duo, but who knows? We're not the coach. We'll see what they do. Let's head down to the floor where they're walking in. We had the big changeover of Complexity's look and design last season, went over very well. And I gotta say, what Energy's done, both with their uniforms and with their logo, loving it this season.
Yeah, I love it. It all looks super, super clean. So you see here the boys in blue on the left side, coming out the left side of the tunnel. We have Complexity, of course. With 5 individuals, they have to bench one of them. We have Adrian Piedra, Air Surfer, Colton, Razor, and Vulcan. So we will see who's going to come out in the 2v2 set. I would imagine that either Colton or Razor or both will come into the 2v2 set. But if they don't, then one of them will most likely be benched today.
Opposite side, Buffmac and Hazard came out for 2v2 last time, and as my co-host mentioned earlier, Buffmac was unable to play in the 1v1 at the end despite that great King of the Hill sweep. Thunderstruck making his 1v1 appearance yesterday. And then, of course, Trainer Dippets, who's a new addition to the team after sitting out last season. We'll see if he gets in the mix today.
Yeah, and the other thing is where is Thunderstruck going to come in? He did play in that 1v1 set, but he got swept by Royal, so maybe move him into 2v2, maybe have him play King of the Hill. Again, putting Buffmac in that 1v1 set, I think, is the key to victory for Energy. And of course, was that a seal? Maybe that's the other key to victory?
I am unsure. We might get a close-up on whatever that animal was. Maybe it'll take the podium at some point as well. Who knows? But we'll be taking a look at that closer, hopefully. I don't know if we'll even get a look at it, but let's take a look at our card bans first for today in this 2v2 set. And a second appearance on our 2v2 ban list for the Baby Dragon.
Yeah, the Baby Dragon is such a powerful, tanky splash card. It's so great at tanking for those, splash units, or excuse me, those smaller units, or of course helping clean up things like a graveyard. And then the NATO, one of the most powerful tools in 2v2, out of play today. No Giant Skeleton ban, which means we will probably see some Giant Skeleton on the stage.
So here we go. 2 teams looking to even up their record at the start of the season. Complexity versus Energy. A lot of questions to be answered in this opening set. Who comes out to the towers for 2v2 for each squad, and how does that affect the remaining sets? Let's go ahead and jump in to our opening chapter.
So both these squads coming out today looking for their first 2v2 set victory on the season. And Rich, one thing I've noticed is we've started to have the Giant Skeleton Witch deck.
Pretty wild that a deck has become that dominant this early. Of course, we'll see if people begin to shift. And early poison to get a lot of value there on the right-hand side for Complexity.
Yeah. Dark Prince gets a nice couple hits in there, the splash on the Musketeer, and of course on the tower.
So talking about these 2v2 lineups, Andrew, you can see Energy taking sort of the note that maybe everyone would have thought, which is get Buffmac out of 2v2 and see if you have another duo that works out well. So Hazard and Thunderstruck playing together in the opening set. And Complexity, trying to reinvent the wheel one more time. This time it's Colton on the tower with his teammate taking a seat on the bench, and Vulcan as his teammate for 2v2.
Yeah, very, very interesting there. So you would imagine that either Air Surfer or Adrian Piedra will play in that third and final set if necessary, and then most likely we will see the benching of Razor today. And I actually really like the idea of moving Thunder into Hazard. I feel like he probably works very well with others. He's very personable, he's very likable, and also his 1v1 record is 4-8 in games, but King of the Hill is 9-10. So I think he can still be a dominant presence in King of the Hill, but it seems like 1v1 just isn't his specialty right now.
Well, especially not when you have Buffmac available for 1v1.
Yeah.
So the first big chunks taken out by Complexity, although Energy has responded with some decent shots of their own on the right-hand side. 2 minutes away, heading now into double elixir time.
Nice E-Wiz there, dropped a half a second behind the miner to make sure it mitigates all the damage.
So Miner, Giant Skeleton, and Skelly Barrel, pretty much the idea for Energy.
Yeah, we have our second team now using the Executioner. Both times have been in 2v2, which I really believe it will find its home.
And a Ram Rider as well, so Energy kind of putting a lot of different looks on the board.
And that right there is one of the reasons why Colton and Razor are so great together, as you saw that Snowball and Log come down from Complexity to deal with that Skeleton Barrel pop. And it's not a huge mistake, it's not a huge misplay, but it is 2 less elixir in the hand of one-year players, as well as a spell out of cycle.
So as we go into sudden death overtime, the right-hand tower of Energy now down at 1100, so getting into some pretty significant danger.
The Fisherman is just everywhere.
And better communication that time dealing with the Skelly Barrel.
Nice fireball there. Take care of the Executioner and hit the Hunter. Would have been nice to get some tower damage, but can't have everything.
So waiting on that log was Energy, leaking a little bit of Elixir, trying to get some chip damage on the Musketeer as well as the tower, but not quite timing that correctly. So a bit of a double waste there.
How are they going to deal with this Ram Rider here? Maybe a log, maybe the snowball. There's the log.
And that log did a lot. Log took care of the Skeleton Barrel and knocked back the Ram Rider a bit as well, but still in some trouble. Let's see Goblin Cage available again for Energy to pull these Royal Hogs.
Yeah, the double Royal Hogs I like. It's definitely a lot to keep managing as a team going up against it. However, if they don't get to tower, you really have a really difficult time getting damage in.
And that Fireball did not get a ton of value on the right-hand side, so forcing out some other responses. Nice timing there on the log, but here we go. Suddenly Energy has taken the lead.
Yeah. Fisherman to pull the Fisherman just maybe.
Fireball does get the flying machine, but what do they have for these Royal Hogs? Not super worried about the left-hand side now as Energy, so focusing more on that right lane defense.
Fisherman does get one of those fish slaps in. Feel weird
Energy
saying
so
fish slap.
low on Elixir right now, and they know they're in trouble.
Yep. Just a little bit too much committed on the left-hand side. Colton and Vulcan making it look easy. I mean, obviously their tower was down below 1,000 HP on the right-hand side, but once they figured out the best way to play their defense, once they were cycling their spells one after the other, never double dropping, they had that very much in control.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely a couple of misplays early on, and Hazard and Thunderstruck made it very, very close, especially in that last push right before the end, but let themselves thirsting for Elixir, and Colton and Vulcan taking the opportunity to punish them for it and not let up. Royal Hogs after Royal Hogs, knowing they had nothing to deal with it.
And one thing that's crazy is that was Hazard's 61st game of 2v2, whereas it was Thunderstruck's first. Period.
Okay. That's pretty wild. Hazard has played quite a bit of 2v2. I think he's played in every single 2v2 for Energy in both of the first two seasons, and continuing that streak here in our fall split.
Yeah, and you know, Thunderstruck's still very shapeable, very new to the league. I think is a really nice addition to the, or a complementary addition to their 2v2 pair. Losing Carter, obviously, now Hazard and Carter played together, I'd say almost 100% of the time, if not 100% of the time. Thunderstruck did good in that game. Obviously, there's always room to improve.
We will see what changes they can make against this Complexity squad here in game number 2.
So here we go. Game number 2 on its way. Some mental mistakes from both squads early on. Let's see if they can clean those up in this second game.
I do like seeing the Ice Spirit more in 2v2 as of late. Didn't see a lot of Ice Spirit in this first season. The first season was so beat down heavy. It seems that as the deck choices have expanded a bit, we've seen the Ice Spirit incorporated more and more.
Yeah, it's just, it provides such great utility, whether it's defensively or just to help cycle. A very quick cycle card that provides a lot. I'd say more than Skeletons most of the time, but each of them have their respective place in the world.
Now, one thing I am curious about, Andrew, is something we saw at WCCG a bunch from the Chinese and Asian teams, is will we start seeing the potential for the Rage spell to move its way in?
Yeah, you know, it was one of those things. They ended up starting to use Rage regularly because Lumberjack would get banned so often in 2v2, but then players started to realize that Rage was just better. It helped improve their cycle. You didn't have to lose a unit or sacrifice a unit to get that buff. And yeah, it was all over the place, especially the giant double Prince, double Rage deck.
Yeah. So very curious to see if any of these Western teams incorporate that into our fall season. And straight up Lava Loon here for Energy.
Yeah, La Balloon obviously becomes much, much more effective when NATO is off the board.
And Balloon doesn't quite get the tower, but we do get death damage, so Energy takes the lead in the opening 2 minutes.
On the bottom side of your screen, we do see the Royal Giant win condition. You wonder if they're also going to have a Fisherman in there. Fisherman can be really great to pull those units that are dropped right on top of the Royal Giant away.
So far, no sign of the small Mariner, but we'll see if he makes an appearance. It is double RG.
Yep. And a minion horde.
Yeah.
That is definitely a card we don't see much.
Yeah, I mean, Minion Horde does factor in a little bit to certain of the mortar bait decks that you favor. A nice job using the snowball to clear out those bats and get that Inferno Tower burning down the Lava Hound.
Yeah, the Minion Horde in 2v2 is one of those cards that you'll play once early on, maybe kind of catch your opponents off guard, if you will, but then after that it becomes a game of figuring out their cycle to know when their big spells are out of rotation, because it is very easy to give a lot of value or a negative elixir trade when you drop a Minion Horde into some splash troops.
Andrew, that's 2 raged up Royal Giant shots with that Lumberjack going down the right-hand side.
And there's still so much in the lane. That is definitely going to be towered down, whereas on the bottom left-hand of your screen, you see nothing there.
And you can see Hazard kind of beside himself with what happened in that sequence. So opening up his 2v2 campaign in this season, kind of a shocker here. Energy falling 0-2 in their 2v2 sets.
Yeah, 1-4 in games, 0-2 in the set. And you saw right there, Colton and Vulcan. The Lava Hound came down left-hand side. They went, all right, I'm going to sell out in the right, because Lava Hounds by themselves just do not provide or create a huge offensive threat. So defend lightly on the left, go hard in the right, and Thunderstruck and Hazard just had nothing to defend.
This creates an interesting and kind of a compelling problem for Energy, because despite losing that set to Immortals, it felt like Hazard and Buffmac had a much better 2v2 synergy than Hazard and Thunderstruck. But then if you create that pairing, you then set up the problem of Buffmac not being available for the final set.
100%, and that's one of the things, you know, that final set is going to happen more and more as we work farther through the season, when teams have a lot more to lose, when they're really trying to get into that playoff spot. We started to split the first 2 sets a lot more often. The third set came into play regularly, so I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you by any means, but I just don't know what the answer is. I think the answer is you still have to keep Buffmac in the 1v1 slot and then find out someone that works really well with Hazard.
Yeah, and look, the answer might be Thunderstruck. Just today, it felt like there were a couple missteps where they weren't exactly on the same page, and you saw the frustration on Hazard's face there at the end. I mean, going 0-2 and 2v2 to start the season is kind of a shocker for a guy who's for a long time been Energy's reputation has been based on the 2v2 play of Hazard and his former partner Carter.
I mean, when it was Hazard and Carter, it's almost like you're riding a bike with no hands. When you bring Thunderstruck back in, and not that he's not a good player, it's almost like you're throwing training wheels back on. You got to figure out the communication, the synergy, figure out who's a better defensive player, more offensive player, and which one is better at calling the plays. So a lot of things to figure out. Obviously, it's only their second match, their second set, but still a lot of groundwork to cover right now. Again, 1-4 in games.
On the other side of that, an opening win for a non-Colton and Razor pairing in 2v2 for Complexity. You know, got to be feeling pretty good about that. So nice work for Complexity there. Now we're heading into our King of the Hill. Rosters coming at you right now.
So looks like we've got Air Surfer kicking things off, Adrian Piedra following him, and Vulcan to close things out. On the other side of it, we have Trainer Dippets making his CRL debut, West, NA, EU, anything CRL. He was on Dignitas when it was CRL, NA, and EU, respectively, or separately if you want to say, but today is his very first time on the big stage. Following him will be Thunderstruck and Buffmac.
Yeah, never got a chance to flex his skills in that opening season. You know, was IMJP, Max Lamanas,
Wonka,
all those guys were getting the reps. Trainer Dip never got his shot that first season, rode the bench the whole way through, so very excited to be here. Of course, his most recent accomplishment would be the support he gave as both sort of a coach and analyst for Juicy J at the World Cyber Games to help Juicy J take home the gold medal.
Yeah, it was incredibly impressive. I mean, we had the luxury of getting to hang out with him when our friends were casting, whether it was Modic and Ashtax or G-Clef and Paper Thin. We talked to Dippets about his match or strategy calling, and it was absolutely astounding the amount of times that he put his opponents 100% on the right deck.
So here we go. Goblin Giant Sparky facing off against a bridge spam variant from Air Surfer. And nice timing on the zap.
Yeah. Sparky would have beat the E-Wiz to that zap.
So zap and E-Wiz, those are going to make things a little difficult here for Dip. Air Surfer with a pretty good call here deck-wise.
Yeah, and surprisingly, so far as of today and yesterday, it looks as if Goblin Giant Sparky has gone 1-3 overall.
Was very dominant last season in both forms. The one that's most like the one Trainer Dippets is running right now, and the Lumberjack Fireball version.
I just need to scroll down. It's 3-2.
Ah, okay.
But of course, everyone still wants to rock it.
So aggressive high Goblin Giant there.
You see here at the bottom of your screen a very popular new bridge spam deck. That was a big time connection on the right hand side of your screen.
So gotta wonder here if Dippets is running Lightning. Yes, there we go.
And that is a big connection. Even without the charge, getting like three swings in from that Dark Prince was devastating.
So very smart here. You see Trainer Dippets is not necessarily relying on his Sparky to be the big damage dealer here. Instead, playing some cat and mouse games with it defensively and getting that damage from the Dark Prince.
Yeah, using it more as almost a distraction. You have to pay attention to this card. Now you see the very, very high Fisherman being played to try to pull all the units into the Sparky right there. You've got 2 units down, 3 units down.
Boy.
That is exactly why we love the P.E.K.K.A. Fisherman combo.
That is really impressive. That P.E.K.K.A. does not quite get on tower, but doesn't matter. Dark Prince, Baby Dragon, E-Wiz, Trainer Dippets in a lot of trouble, and that is it.
Wow.
Air Surfer turns it on its head. Just about 10 or 15 seconds of gameplay completely changes this matchup.
I mean, that, again, that's why the Fisherman and the P.E.K.K.A. work so well together. All the responses that Dippets had, the Hunter, the Fisherman, and the Sparky all pulled right into the range of the P.E.K.K.A. Wonderfully executed by Air Surfer.
We saw as soon as that Fisherman got a hold of the Sparky and brought it into the middle of a P.E.K.K.A. and E-Wiz, it can't shoot, it's getting hit hard, and that's a lot of elixir down the drain in just a second.
And another thing you really got to tip your hat to Air Surfer for is the use of his zaps. He saw very, very small openings to create more pressure from his units, or at least provide more utility to his units by just a small zap in there. It allowed him to take out the Sparky early on and also allowed him to pull the Sparky in at the end of the game there. So very, very well played. Air Surfer gets his first head-to-head victory here at CRL West Fall.
Yeah, a nice way to get back in the win column for Air Surfer, and had a lot of answers for that Sparky, but fell behind. And give it up to Trainer Dippets for the way he played early on, as we were talking about that cat and mouse game, getting the damage with the Dark Prince. But just Air Surfer caught him in a moment and set up a really great response to that Sparky. Let's go ahead and take a look, I believe, at that sequence.
Yeah, and this is when you know all things are going right. 1269 on the bottom right, almost untouched are Trainer Dippets' towers, and you see right there, Battle Ram to distract in the left-hand side, high Fisherman. Let's get that Hunter over here. Cool. Oh, a Fisherman? Cool. Let's bring him over here as well. There's the zap to provide the opening, and another massive pull with that Sparky, from the Sparky all the way to the P.E.K.K.A. It felt like it crossed half the map there, and then you see Dip has no response with that massive push.
Yeah, that's 3 troops in a row just eaten by that combination. So there you go. Fisherman, P.E.K.K.A. working together like magic.
Yeah. With
the E-Wiz behind it, hard to deal with it. So 1 down, 2 more to go. Air Surfer with a big win coming up next for Energy. It's the Scotsman. Thunderstruck takes the tower. So here we go. Thunderstruck across from Air Surfer. And of course then Adrian Piedra and Vulcan.
Thunderstruck looking for his first game win here at CRL West Fall. Yesterday he fell to the God RF and Royal. God RF in King of the Hill and Royal in the 1v1 set.
Even with the nerf, Goblin Cage still so prevalent, Andrew.
Yeah, very, very strong card still.
Not as prevalent, the Barb Barrel.
Yep, but that Barb will get a swing in, and the Fisherman is just everywhere.
Mini P.E.K.K.A. cycled in the back for Thunderstruck.
Fisherman has now been played 49 times.
That's wild. And there's a Fisherman Mini P.E.K.K.A. combo. We were just talking about Fisherman P.E.K.K.A., but
Oh, yeah.
with the little pancake lover still works out pretty well, too.
I actually really like that. I think that's a great idea. We'll see if that maybe there's some way to maybe make a mini P.E.K.K.A. Hog Rider Fisherman deck or something of the sorts.
So, Air Surfer's Baby Dragon still alive, making its way across the river, will be taken care of by the Mega Minion. And really slowing down right now is Thunderstruck.
Yeah, slowing down, but also with a very, very fast cycle at his hands.
Yeah, we'll see if that 4 elixir comes back to bite him later in the game. And again, maybe a little indecisive here as the Scotsman.
Yeah, it seems like he's not wanting to overcommit anywhere. I mean, I do like that, but you obviously need to pick what you're going to do here. So now that we're into, there it is. I was going to say, now that we're in a double elixir, we got to see something big happen.
Okay, so Golem would explain some of that elixir leakage.
Yeah, and this is where what you were talking about really comes into play, Rich. Doesn't quite get the King Tower activation, but the mini P.E.K.K.A. and the Fisherman together behind the Golem is really excellent. So you'll see right here, pull that away from the Golem, mini P.E.K.K.A. takes care of it. Once again, pull the P.E.K.K.A. away from the Golem.
Oh,
but,
nice Barb Barrel.
Yeah, very nice Barb Barrel, very nice Goblin Cage. I'm sure Air Surfer saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, Andrew. Here we go, deep into double elixir time, approaching sudden death, and we will see if Thunderstruck can find a way past this P.E.K.K.A. play of Air Surfer, but right now it's Air Surfer putting the pressure on, and there you go, the King Tower activation for Thunderstruck does work out this time.
Yeah, a lot of damage on that right-hand tower, and I was just going to say, you already know that Air Surfer has a P.E.K.K.A. waiting in his hands, so I feel there's almost no way for Thunderstruck to break through right now.
It's going to be very, very difficult. A slight elixir lead right now, and he goes high Golem.
Yeah, I like the aggression there. Ooh, the Fisherman will pull the Dark Prince. This could be a turning of the tides.
Air Surfer should be back to another P.E.K.K.A. fairly soon. There it is.
Lightning comes in to free up a little space, trying to get all the stuns that he can in. He does not want the big Golem to be hitting that tower.
Lightning did not get the Brawler as well, though, so a little less value than Thunderstruck may have wanted, and now he's in some trouble against these pigs.
Yeah, that honestly should almost wrap it up. Now he just needs to drop the Goblin Cage, get the cycle back around as soon as possible, and get another poison down.
Here we go, high Golem. This is Thunderstruck's opportunity. Can he sneak in more quickly than Air Surfer can get back to that poison?
He needs one more card in the elixir for it. There's the Baby Dragon. Now poison should be back in cycle.
That's going to be it. Very, very close.
Yeah.
Air Surfer does it, taking out Thunderstruck, and now one away from a King of the Hill sweep.
Yeah, and remember, he swept Dignitas last season in the spring. An overall King of the Hill record now of 8-11 is Air Surfer. One of the greatest players when it comes to the global tournament. One of the best head-to-head players there's ever been. 3 first-place finishes in the global tournament.
That's very, very impressive. Of course, a lot of that on the back of his really nasty Expo play.
Yes. Yeah, that is not a name you want. I mean, I even spectated him a handful of times during those tournaments. You get people that see him, they see his name, and then they see that he's playing Expo, they just start laughing and saying, good game.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Have not seen Expo from Air Surfer for quite a while, though. I don't believe he played Expo at all last season. Gave it a few throws out in Season 1, but so far has not turned to that direction, so we'll see what he does now in a pretty big spot. He has a chance to complete a sweep, but across from him, one of the best King of Hill players on the planet, it's Buffmac.
Yeah, he has quite the opponent in front of him, Rich, in Buffmac, who was in this exact same position yesterday against Immortals and pulled off the reverse sweep. So something that Complexity really does not want to allow it happen again.
Air Surfer cycling bats to open. And immediately putting pressure on with the split pigs.
Musketeer and minions out of Buffmac.
And Bandit forcing out the Fisherman to make sure that dash does not hit tower.
And with the Magic Archer being played by Air Surfer, you know that Buffmac down the road, excuse me, going to be trying to get a King Tower activation.
Well, he has a few different ways to do it with that Fisherman between the... Whoa, yeah, that was that was some distance. Between the Magic Archer and the Royal Hogs, a few different ways to get that activation done.
Definitely. Looks like Air Surfer here running Fireball bait.
And Buffmac goes Giant Skeleton to protect that Musketeer. This is generally good advice, Andrew, across the board. You have a Musketeer on the board, protect that Musketeer.
Yeah, definitely. She's not cheap, and she provides so much DPS.
So second time now, I feel that we've seen this Ram Rider Giant Skeleton combination this season.
And that Ram Rider gets a ton of damage in. That little zap to help did a lot of work.
So here we go, heading into double elixir time. Buffmac pretty much unscathed at this stage in the game. Air Surfer in trouble on the left-hand side. Has not really taken advantage of the bait aspect of these 3 or 4 different Fireball bait cards.
Yeah, and with Fireball in Buffmac's hand, you know, that's the type of guy that knows exactly when and where to use it. And right here is a moment where you'd see a lesser player Fireball at the river. Instead, he opts to go Fisherman. Doesn't get the King Tower activation, but doesn't really matter. He still has his Fireball, Rich.
It was the Skeletons that were brilliant about that play, Andrew. They took care of the Bandit. They turned the Magic Archer from getting that extra value through the Giant Skeleton onto the tower. Fisherman came in to finish off that whole sequence. That was some beautiful defensive micro play by Buffmac.
It's one of the reasons people think he's arguably the best head-to-head player in the game right now.
Royal Hogs doing a lot on that left-hand side, and the Musketeer prevents the King Tower activation.
Yeah, and just like that, Air Surfer goes right into the lead.
And look at that. Talk about the Fireball bait. Gets rid of the Magic Archer, but then Giant Skeleton taken apart by the Barbarians at the river.
Saves his snowball there. Those high bats probably not going to pay off very well. Air Surfer looking like he's in just a little bit of trouble needing to get through to that Fisherman and the Musketeer. Now the Ram Rider in front to tank. This is a lot.
Fireball should be back in cycle again. Yeah, there it is. Does get some tower damage and bandit damage, but Air Surfer survives.
Yeah. Both those units with a sliver of health.
I can't believe that bandit got on tower. I really can't believe that dash happened. But look at this. No Fireball, nothing really available to deal with these pigs on the right-hand side. Buffmac choosing to eat the damage.
About 200 HP separating them now.
And Air Surfer doing the smart thing. He's going to keep all these Fireball bait cards to the right-hand side as much as he can and not try to give any value on the left lane.
So if I'm Air Surfer, I very lightly defend this push. Exactly. You save your elixir for the left-hand lane. There's the Snowball and the Bandit. That should be just enough. And now the Hogs are back in cycle, but so is the Fireball.
Hogs high, maybe Magic Archer behind as the defense comes out.
You called it.
There we go. Gets on tower. That might be it. A lot of damage down to 239. There is not really direct damage in Air Surfer's deck, though. Just the giant snowball.
Yeah, and you got to save that snowball to help with this Ram Rider, just in case the Goblin Cage isn't enough. And there you see, I would rather waste that snowball than even risk taking damage.
Might even split pigs here just to make things annoying for Buffmac.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot.
There you
again,
go.
Very, very nice call. There's so much in the left-hand lane. He has to pay attention to it. He might take the left-hand tower.
Oh my gosh.
He does!
Air Surfer does it!
Wow!
Finishes off Boofmac. Huge King of the Hill sweep for Air Surfer and a 5-game sweep for Complexity.
And you talked about it early on, Rich. He was having a hard time baiting out that fireball, making Boofmac pick and choose where to send it. And about halfway through overtime, you started to see it. Boofmac did not. He was playing uncomfortable. He didn't want to use his fireball. You saw him drop the Fisherman to defend against the Royal Hogs instead of just using the fireball. Air Surfer took advantage of it. And then once again at the very end, the split push with the Royal Hogs, absolutely magnificent.
He started to spread him out and make him make decisions. If you're playing a deck that has bait aspects and you're not forcing your opponent to make choices, you're not doing the right thing. And once he started doing that, Boofmac had to sacrifice one to push the other, and it really, at that point, that's when the game turned to Air Surfer's side.
Yeah, and I don't want to call this a misplay, but for me, it felt a lot more like a momentum shift. Boofmac was in the driver's seat for so long, but it was the moment when he started to play his Giant Skeleton in the right-hand lane where, for me, as a spectator, I went, huh, that's interesting. I felt like he wanted to keep the pressure up in the left with that Giant Skeleton, but then he had to play Air Surfer's game, starting to split his heavy units, and then that was the moment that Air Surfer took over.
Well, there was a second there where Air Surfer seemed to realize that if he kept playing that left-hand side and giving Fireball value, that was going to be the death of him. And so he threw the Magic Archer right-hand lane, started forcing the play to be on that side. And you saw a Fireball come to that Magic Archer on that tower.
Right.
And that's exactly what Air Surfer wanted in that moment. This is that final moment. You can see the right-hand tower in a ton of trouble. Very, very nice defense here on the left. Again, that fireball has been spread so thin all over the board.
Yeah.
And this is the moment. We were talking about it as it came in. Split Hogs, making you make decisions. And here we go. Hogs dropped 3 and 1 at the bridge. And just as he's looking at the right-hand lane, spending 6 elixir, that's 3 Hogs and a Magic Archer on the left. The Magic Archer shot finishes it off, and that's the idea. Make your opponent make decisions.
And I love that it was a 3 to the healthier tower, 1 to the weaker tower split, because where that Fisherman was placed, he was looking for him to go after the weaker tower. Instead, the Fisherman was distracted by the Hog. The 3 went on tower, tanked for by those Barbarians. Just excellent. Way to go, Air Surfer.
And a lot of really close games here. This King of the Hill run wasn't just a beat down left and right by Air Surfer. He was put under pressure time and time again, and it was mid-game adjustments in each one of these 3 that helped him get that 1-2-3 win. So now let's go to the floor where Kelly Link is standing by with Complexity.
Thank you guys so much. I am joined here by Air Surfer from Complexity going in a 2-0 sweep there. Congratulations. I want to speak a little bit about the 2v2 switches you guys did yesterday. You did lose, but you changed up your players. What was the decision for that?
Well, we didn't really switch because we lost. We have a few different pairs that we're playing with, so I mean, we're kind of trying to be unpredictable, I guess, sometimes.
Well, besides the roster switching that you did, clearly you did a lot better today than you did yesterday against Queso. What else did you guys change?
Well, they just played better today, I guess. On the first day there were a few mistakes, but today they played really well and won 2-0, so it was good for us.
So you just sweeped King of the Hill, but you went up against Boofmac last, who you did a reverse sweep yesterday. Were you nervous at all going up against him, or did you have a specific strategy for him?
I was a little nervous, but I was pretty glad with the matchup because I had pretty good answers for what he had, and then, I mean, we both played well, but I got the win, so I was happy.
Season 3 just started a few weeks ago, or a few moments ago, and I want to talk to you a little bit about Fisherman and that where we see him now. What are your thoughts on the changes to Fisherman and how he's playing in Season 3 now?
I think he's definitely one of the best cards in the game. He was changed quite a bit, so I think he's the best defensive card right now, and I mean, he's just really good, so a lot of people are using him now.
Again, congratulations on that 2-0 win there. And everyone, we're not done just yet. We're heading right back to the casters.
Thanks a lot, Kelly. And you heard that there, just Complexity trying to stay unpredictable. And you and I both had concerns, expressed concerns about changing that 2v2 lineup. Today it works. Colton and Vulcan together as a pair.
I mean, here's the thing. We love Matt. We love Kyle. We respect Complexity. That's why we have to ask the questions that we do. And the fact that they're trying to keep their opponents guessing, because their opponents most likely have just been prepping for Razor and Colton for the last 2 seasons. Going into the 3rd season, you got to keep it fresh. You got to change things up. And honestly, if you have Vulcan and Colton doing what they did in that 2v2 set, I think it works. It really does, because you still have Vulcan in the King of the Hill if necessary.
Yeah, not necessary today, though.
No.
Air Surfer coming out with both really excellent gameplay, some good deck choices, and we talked about beforehand, good mid-game adjustments.
100%, and you heard it here. Best defensive card in the game is the Fisherman. We've seen it so many times effective on offense, but it's defense that really changes it up.
So that's it for our opening match of the day. Let's head into our second match of this beautiful Super Sunday. Match number 2, Immortals facing off against Cream. Immortals with the same look from last season. Lapacati, though, still not available for the squad.
Yeah.
On the other side, Cream with the 2 players they wanted all season, Codigo and Luke Dubs, and the addition of Pompeo.
Yeah, Pompeo, one of the stars of the game, one of the most famous players in the game, has moved in the 2v2 set with Codigo, and they actually fared very, very well against Morton and Sam from SK. And of course, on the other side of it, you have RF and AC, who you just spoke about. Yesterday, they took down Hazard and Buffmac in the 2v2 set. So I can't imagine they'll be changing things up there. It doesn't make sense. They've been together for so long. They play together so well. But what it is all about right now is Royal and what he can do in the in the King of the Hill, and then if necessary, once again in the 1v1.
Well, we had some help with RF taking 2 wins in the King of the Hill yesterday, so it's not all on his back. Of course, that 2v2 cushion is very nice to have when you're only with 3 players at the moment. And of course, on the other side of it, people surprised not having a chance to see Pompeo yet in head-to-head play so far, keeping him in that 2v2 set. But with the way King of the Hill went yesterday, I suspect that we'll see Pompeo in the King of the Hill roster for that second set.
Hey, you know what we did not expect to see is a flashback in time to CRL North America. Oh yeah, who in the last season of CRL went all the way over to Asia and played for Chaos Theory. He is back in the States and hanging with his boys in blues. We got, oh yeah, Royal, the God, Lapacati and the God RF.
We'll see Lapacati eventually, but it is nice to see Oh yeah back with his boys. On the other side of the arena, fighting for red, Codigo, Lince, Luke Dubs, and Pompeo. Luke Dubs, kind of surprised not to see him as their 2v2 player given his long and talented 2v2 history, but I asked him before the match, he said himself that he believes that Codigo and Pompeo are a better pair.
Very, very interesting. And honestly, I think the idea there, too, is that Luke Dubs is a very strong head-to-head player. He's very calculated. It didn't actually pay off for him very well in his last match. He fell to Sergio Ramos in King of the Hill and then again to Javi 14 in the 1v1 set. But he is very good when it comes to head-to-head play. So maybe, just maybe, that's where he will find his home.
Well, we will see how that shakes out as time goes on. For now, look at these bans. NATO, no surprise, a Graveyard ban from Immortals who've enjoyed playing Graveyard.
Yeah, that is very, very interesting. The question that I ask myself more than anything when I see that ban is, what win condition are they running to where Graveyard ruins them?
That's really interesting. I think that's a great question, right? What is it that Graveyard makes annoying? Maybe they just hate dealing with Graveyard Cycle.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to have to put in cards specifically that counter Graveyard into their deck and not have to worry about that. So who knows? We'll see what that does and why that shook out the way it has as we get into our 2v2 set. You know, I'm enjoying not only am I enjoying bans when it's done for the deck construction, Andrew, but we're seeing different bans. Season 1 in CRL North America and EU, we saw the same bans over and over. It became like, oh, Poison NATO, Poison NATO. Someone banned a Lava today, cool.
Right.
But we've seen a wide variety of bans thus far, and it's only day 2.
And you have to do that because we saw exactly what happened when CRL NA and EU went all the way over to Tokyo. Banning the same cards they had banned the whole entire season, they ran into 2v2 duos that they did not know how to match up against. So that is something that we don't have to think about anymore. Pompeo and Codigo obviously back out with Cream and their coach on the stands, looking to pick up their second set victory in 2 matches.
Pompeo currently sitting at a 66% lifetime win rate overall in CRL because of those 2 wins and 1 loss.
Yes.
Let's see if he can add to that here in our 2v2 set.
Game number 1 underway. Match number 2 on your day. Happy Sunday to all of you at home watching. Crap and the God RF at the bottom of your screen. At the top of your screen, Pompeo and Codigo.
Yeah, Pompeo and Codigo played well against Morten and Sam, although Morten and Sam also played a little tentative in that matchup.
Yeah, that's a missed pull on that Gob Giant, or Gob Cage.
Giant snowball to correct, but now you've spent a little extra elixir than you wanted. I'm always so afraid that a mini P.E.K.K.A. will survive one extra shot and get a hit on my tower.
And it happens so often, right? That last sliver of health. So almost completely undefended Ram Rider in your left-hand lane there, getting some decent damage in for Crap and the God RF. But more damage coming in from Pompeo and Codigo.
So not quite a 100% win rate for Pompeo. As you can see on that right-hand graphic, it's actually a 67% win rate, which is also pretty gaudy, but only a small 3-game sample size to play with so far.
Yeah, and this is going to be a real test right here. Not to say that Morten and Sam were not, but honestly, there was something odd about Morten and Sam's play yesterday. They just looked a little bit more comfortable than they normally do. They didn't look quite as hungry for the win. And that P.E.K.K.A. took the long walk around the back of the tower, leaving the front of it completely undefended.
And Immortals have taken a big blow early on, down to 150 on the right-hand side, courtesy of that Lava Hound play.
Yeah, and if I'm Pompeo and Codigo, I'm just going to ignore the right-hand lane unless I have to defend it and keep pressure up on the left now.
Here we go into double elixir time, and so far Lava Hound doing a better job than the Ram Rider double combination with the Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A. You know, not a lot in this deck to deal with the air attack. You have 2 snowballs and 2 E-Wizzes. That is certainly something. Plus a baby dragon.
Yeah, and thus far on the season, Ram Rider has been played 5 times, but has only found victory once.
That was a huge lightning, Andrew. Opened up a big hole on the left-hand side, now down to 882.
So there you go. Almost evening things up.
And here we go with a little extra push from the Dark Prince. P.E.K.K.A. making a beeline for that tower. Dark Prince does not get the splash damage. Miner to the back, Ram Rider to the front.
And a lot of spells coming in, but it's still going to be tower down, Miner to the right-hand side to clean up that tower.
Oh, and the double E-Wiz drop.
I love it. They make them spend on the poison specifically. So get some of those squishier units in the back and start building a push if you are Immortals.
And Immortals now with a bit of an elixir advantage, even with that baby dragon on the board. So we'll see if they can really put the pressure on the right-hand lane. And now it's Cream's Pompeo and Codigo lavaing up one more time to the left-hand side.
Yeah, I actually really, really liked the idea of trying to make Cream spend more on that last tower. 150 HP isn't much, but it still is just enough.
So good defense on the right-hand side and same on the left, but now a pretty big push coming down to counter into the King Tower of Immortals.
Yeah, very, very easily and efficiently cleaned up. And now you got to start to wonder if Cream is going to start lava hounding up in the same lane that Immortals is going for, trying to go for the 3 crown, but instead they opt to go right at the river. Very aggressive. Nice lightning.
So both teams taking pretty big chunks out of these towers that are standing kitty or caddy corner. I don't know which corner you want to call it.
I don't either, but that mini P.E.K.K.A. Oh, wow. Goblin Cage comes down just in time.
Kitty? Caddy? Opposite corners. If you say one of them, someone will tell you that you're wrong and it should be the other one.
Yes, they will. So now, once again, the Dark Prince pushing the mini P.E.K.K.A. Oh, the Mega P.E.K.K.A. The P.E.K.K.A. pulled, though, to the Princess Tower. Fisherman working for both sides.
Ram Rider might be able to sneak past here. last-second snowball keeps it off the tower. So here's the interesting thing, Andrew. The left-hand side for Immortals in a lot more trouble.
Yeah.
But they do have 2 different lanes to make plays in as we enter the final minute.
Yeah, so maybe right now they play defense against the Lava Hound push and then opt to actually go for the King Tower. Mega Knight there to distract on the right. Oh, nope, they're going all in on the right.
Miner in on the left-hand side with the Lava Hound doing a lot of damage. Cream Esports making a case to finish this thing right here, right now. They do not want to give an opening to Immortals. Down to 309, 264. Snowball E-Wiz combination.
Yeah, and you know, Immortals was just hanging on by a thread for the longest time there, but it really did feel like that sellout push in the right-hand lane at the end of the game there was just too easily cleaned up by Cream, which really left AC and RF wanting on defense.
So game number 1 in the books. Código and Pompeo continue to play 2v2 well, and maybe Luke Dubs is right saying that they are the best 2v2 duo they have.
I mean, look, they're really doing astounding against some of the best 2v2 duos in the game. I mean, taking out Sam and Morten, taking a game away from Crap and RF, so we'll see what happens if they have another set victory over a dominant duo.
I think the same thing happened yesterday with Crap and RF dropping game number 1.
Yep.
So let's see if they can repeat history and go back-to-back in games 2 and 3 to take the set.
Thinking about what decks they ran, they didn't have a ton of splash damage. I mean, they didn't have the Baby Dragon. They didn't keep Poison in there, so maybe that's the idea of why they banned Graveyard, but I'm not sure if I love the ban and what they played in accordance.
Well, you know, they didn't play a lot of cards that have the ability to counter Graveyard specifically, so maybe they just wanted to be able to not think about that. We'll see if that same thread continues in game 2. So one of the books for Código and Pompeo. They're looking at another one to go back-to-back and take this opening set. RF and Crap have been here many times before, though, and I'm sure have plenty to say about that.
Yep. Immediately see the double drop there, mitigating 100% of the damage and creating a big offensive threat.
Guards and bats in response, so a lot of little annoying troops to distract. And a really aggressive Lumberjack balloon push right-hand lane.
Oh, and I like the way they split up the bats like that. You saw that there was no way for their opponent to pick off all the bats unless they got an arrows in.
And a last-second snowball. That is perfect teamwork.
And here we go. Lumberjack, Balloon, opposite lane. Balloon hasn't taken a lick of damage yet.
And a defensive freeze here will do the job of keeping that off tower, but kind of an expensive play to finish off that defense.
And you see right now them going very aggressive at the river. No air support, but does not matter. This is going to hurt, Rich.
Yeah, Pekka picked up the guards, and there you go. The Miner right to the Musketeer. This is flashy play from the Immortals duo.
Yeah. I mean, again, you talk about synergy between two players, and they just have it in spades, man. That was just so well executed on all fronts.
Yeah, the defensive sequence beforehand, splitting the distance on the bats, and then well-timed with that snowball at the end. And then to recognize the opening of the opposite lane, see how panicked Código and Pompeo were on the left-hand side balloon push, and then to just go ahead punish on the right.
I mean, we both saw the over-expenditure in the left-hand lane with all those things, including the freeze coming down for Cream, and then Immortals just took advantage in the right, as well as learning that their opponents are holding freeze.
And some people might back off a little bit here, but instead Immortals chooses to go hard on the right-hand side.
Oh.
Defensive freeze forced out here, but I don't know if that's going to be enough. Yes, it does at the very last second keep that balloon off tower.
And also that Executioner is putting in work for the boys in blue.
Miner to the number 3 spot, and that will do enough to put that tower in spell range.
The timing there of the skeletons coming down from Crap was just excellent. I mean, he's not the one with the Musketeer. It's RF with the Musketeer, but he played those skeletons perfectly.
Double snowball on the right-hand side to take care of that, maybe a little bit extra.
And I believe that tower, yes, it is in spell range between the zap. Oh, and they don't even need it. They got a fireball.
And the fireball. There you go. Immortals finishing this thing off in game number 2. taking it in style, a freeze to punctuate the win. We are going to a game 3.
Yeah, see, again, Pompeo and Código did very, very well in game number 1, but when you watch Akrap and the God RF, when you watch people like Canario and Surgical firing on all cylinders, when the communication is there, when the synergy is there, it looks as if they are in another league of play.
Yeah, and there were so many sequences there, Andrew, where it was just, oh, that was brilliant. Oh, okay, that was also brilliant.
Right.
And it was perfect teamwork, and you saw a couple of times where it was Código and Pompeo not being on the same page, double dropping in certain situations, and on the other side of it, AC and RF calmly playing well together.
And again, this is something I love about Immortals. I love about Trainer Luis. They took that game handedly, and they're the ones calling the timeout right now. They have something that they need to discuss right now. And again, you know, a lot of teams out there would feel severely handicapped by only having 3 players, but these guys have 3 players in very specific roles. You know, you got Akrap and the God RF that are always going to play 2v2. Royal is a head-to-head specialist without Lapakati here, and you know RF should lead off King of the Hill. AC in the middle, Royal to close it out. It's just beautiful with only 3 players that they're still able to feel like a fully formed roster.
Well, I mean, that's also part of Immortals, and I think, I don't know if it's a direct Trainer Luis quote, but it certainly feels like it. You know what we're going to do. Stop us.
yeah, that's actually very true. I mean, between him and Eric Benemu, either one of them could have said that, but it is very true when it comes to Immortals. You know who's going to be where in what set. So right now, RF, AC, and Luis talking about deck choice, and on the other side of it, of course, Código and Pompeo speaking with their coach, figuring out what's going to happen here in game number 3 of this 2v2 set.
So set number 1 will be decided in the next 3 to 6 minutes. Maybe faster if someone goes all in, but don't see a ton of 3 crowns inside of 3 minutes in 2v2.
Yep.
Or at this level generally, to be honest.
And Crap and the God RF repeating so far what they did yesterday, which was falling in the first game and bouncing back aggressively in the second.
And opening Lava, which, you know, in 1v1 play, a controversial yet still ill-advised move. In 2v2, though, with your partner having a lot of defensive options, a lot less risky.
Yeah. Fisherman comes in. Mini P.E.K.K.A on Big P.E.K.K.A. That's actually going to leave Immortals with the Elixir advantage enough to spend on that Lightning.
That Lightning took out 2 E-Wizzes and slammed a tower, so nice opening sequence there for Immortals.
And right there, the slight Elixir disadvantage that they had by going in with that Lightning, really not paying for it much from that Mega Knight being dropped at the river. Very well played.
That was a nice snowball there. You know, you look at that snowball, go, is that a waste? And then death to the Mega Knight midair.
Yep.
There's nothing that feels better defensively than a Mega Knight dying as he jumps to your tower.
Oh, because you know how devastating it is if he's going to land it. You know, one thing that we haven't talked about today, Rich, that you and I usually talk about quite a bit when NATO's off the board is moving up your minor positioning. There is no way to activate King Tower unless you play it right inside to the bottom left or, you know, top left, just depending on what side of the screen you're looking at, and it gets snowballed to your King Tower.
That is true, except for one key difference this season, Andrew. Fisherman.
Right, but the Fisherman shouldn't have the minor. The minor should attack the Fisherman when it lands there.
Fair point.
And that Mini P.E.K.K.A just barely getting stopped in time.
Loading up on the right-hand side is Cream, and probably we'll still see a connection. Yep, we do, because Ram Rider does that.
Of course she does.
Yeah, very interesting. We'll see if they begin to vary out minor placement as we get deeper into this game, if people realize that Tornado is banned.
So it's kind of an interesting high poison, but I see what they're going for.
Didn't quite stick the troops inside the poison that long, but did its job, and now 2 fairly healthy baby dragons behind a Lava Hound.
And that Dark Knight just barely got picked up by the Mega Minion.
Minor this time does go to the back, so starting to notice the one-step outside placement put there by Immortals to avoid a snowball King Tower activation.
Yep. Not a very easy maneuver to pull off, but these are the pros.
So, separated by only 4 HP as we enter sudden death overtime. It's been a back and forth match so far, and how better to enter the final 3 minutes than completely neck and neck.
Ram Rider coming in once again. Should be stopped this time.
Use a rocket or something. Use anything. Go, like, throw all you have because that Ram Rider really will connect over and over.
Very frustrating card to play against. So I really like this Fisherman. He's going to pull that Ewiz away from defending against that Lava Hound.
And you see the mini P.E.K.K.A dropping right there as well to support that wiping off the board. And now, here we go. We talked about that Fisherman P.E.K.K.A combination. And once again, it's that Fisherman mini P.E.K.K.A combination.
Yeah, a little bit cheaper, improves your cycle, and still a ton of single target DPS.
Snowballs on both sides does keep the Ram Rider off the Immortals tower, but look at that, right-hand side now down under 1,000 HP, but a big push developing in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Immortals need to switch up right now, but what they're doing isn't exactly working in their favor.
Miner to the back. Maybe a half step early before that lava pops. Look at this.
Oh, wow. That is actually going to do it.
Oh.
Immortals have the Baby Dragon on tower.
There you go. Lightning gets in at the last second, finishes it off, and once again, the 2v2 reverse sweep for Crap and RF. And I don't know what they're throwing back and forth, but maybe Crap saying, feed me. And there you have it, starting off the season with 2 set wins to open up in their signature 2v2.
Yeah, all business when it gets down. Right there, you see the love from their coach, who did call that timeout after their big-time Game 2 win. RF and AC bouncing back after the initial loss to Código and Pompeo, who now are 1-1 in their 2v2 set. Immortals perfect through 2 matches.
Yeah, very, very well played from these guys. And, you know, it seemed like they really were in trouble after that first game. Código and Pompeo playing well.
Yeah. There
were some question marks surrounding, of course, that ban. But as we saw, we continue to see the deck construction they made. Pretty much none of those, except maybe the Balloon deck, really had solid answers to Graveyard.
Yeah.
But even then, the primary answers in that Balloon deck were 2 sets of bats, which can be poisoned off easily. So,
and the other thing is, when you run into Graveyard, at least what it seems like when you've been running into Graveyard, is it's always a double Graveyard deck. So once those Graveyards get rotating, you might have answers for one. You know, they had a poison in that last deck construction they had. One of them had a poison, but if you're rotating Graveyards, it becomes very, very difficult to keep up with, especially when you're playing these heavier beatdown decks. One with P.E.K.K.A, Mega Knight, Ram Rider, of course, as you just saw with the Lava Hound.
So there you have it, 2v2 going the way of Immortals, as one might expect many times over. And now we head into King of the Hill, and we know what Immortals is doing.
Yeah.
We probably know the order. It's probably going to be RF, AC, and then Royal. But the big question then is what happens on the side of Cream?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. I think you have to put Pompeo in the King of the Hill. I think you have to get him a little bit of head-to-head experience. The rest of it, definitely going to see Luke Dubs, and I really think Lindsay. I think those are your 3 that come out today.
We'll see what happens. Lindsay, of course, has had so many great performances in King of the Hill, really carrying Cream in the early part of last season.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead, take a look at these rosters and see if we're at all close with what they're bringing out. So we got her right on the Cream Esports side, Pompeo, Lindsay, and Luke Dubs, but...
You know what, Trainer Luis? We'd like to speak to you after the broadcast.
Yeah. I have a feeling he heard us and did that on purpose.
Of course he did. AC kicking it off, RF following that, and then Royal for Immortals, and I'll tell you the rest once we are in-game. And on the other side of it, we have Luke Dubs kicking things off for Cream. Pompeo in that middle spot, and Lindsay to close it out.
So let's see what Immortals pulls out, or what Crap pulls out in this opening game. Went a little more meta yesterday than we typically expect.
Royal Ghost, not the best response to a miner, but still will do some cleanup. Valkyrie.
And it's Royal Hogs behind a Royal Ghost, just going all Royal. Throw in a Royal Giant there too, please.
Yeah, and that will be the CRL West debut of the Valkyrie.
And look at that. So Executioner NATO in 1v1.
Executioner, NATO, Valkyrie, Miner. What a fascinating deck so far.
Well, you know, seeing the Royal Hogs and Magic Archer, a pretty usual combination, but Royal Ghost attached to that, also a little off-center for Crap.
Yeah, very, very true.
And that's twice now the Royal Ghost has been the response, and it feels like Crap's trying not to play something specific.
I took the words right out of my mouth, Rich. I'm not sure what else he has lined up there. I mean, honestly, the Fisherman would have been a better response both times.
And now Executioner in the back. Yeah, immediately you're going to see that Royal Hogs opposite lane. You got to wonder if Luke Dubs has a plan, and there it is.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're definitely going to see the NATO to King, but that's not going to stop a lot of the damage.
A little surprised by that Executioner behind King Tower.
Yeah, it feels almost like a small mental mistake there. That Magic Archer, though, was definitely a mistake, just walking away from all things red on the left side of the map.
Bats get zapped, Miner still on the tower, Snowball going to help, and it does stop the drop just barely.
So the Miner does put in a ton of work, about a bomb's drop worth of work, but it stopped the bomb, which was huge.
And again, with a Swarm Troop played behind tower, Crap getting aggressive with the Royal Hogs.
Yeah, AC is going to have to figure out something, and he's going to have to figure something out very, very quick. You look here, Executioner, NATO, Valkyrie, all these things, even the Ice Spirit make it very difficult for the Royal Hogs to break through.
And some difficult choices for Crap in terms of how he defends against this balloon. You know, not the giant snowball, obviously a great part of that, but everything is sort of 50-50. Those bats can be zapped off very easily.
Yeah, and the Rascals, you know, you got to make sure both the girls are targeting on top of that balloon. So that was actually an incredible exchange for Crap. Look at that, 467 in the top right. Luke Dubs going maybe a little too aggressive in the bottom left.
But look at this, Luke Dubs going hard left-hand side, Miner, balloon. Can he beat this Royal Hog push? Ooh. We have the Goblin Cage down, bats to help as well. Royal Hogs on the tower, right-hand side.
That'll do it. Royal Ghost on the tower. The NATO pulls the Hogs away, but pulls the Royal Ghost closer, who gets the killing blow, the coup de grace. And Crap picks up a King of the Hill victory, moving his record to 2-5 now over 3 seasons.
Yeah, very, very well played by Crap, but you kind of got to feel like it might have all come back to that Executioner behind King Tower early on, opening up a big opportunity for AC to get some damage.
I mean, I've been in that position before where you feel like you have every answer that you need. You have such a favorable matchup. Valkyrie, NATO, Ice Spirit, Executioner, and you've got, of course, the Miner that's very difficult to pick up. But something about that, I think, made Luke Dubs a little too comfortable in the way he was defending. Like you said, Executioner in the back, Valkyrie in the back.
So one down, Crap taking a big King of the Hill victory, and does not have a lot of those, only his second King of the Hill victory so far in 3 seasons of Clash Royale League.
Yeah, I mean, only his second head-to-head victory. Let's see if he can get to his third right now as Pompeo makes his head-to-head debut in Game 2 of King of the Hill.
Something I'm sure we're all excited to see, Pompeo making his head-to-head debut. And in case you have never watched anything in Clash Royale before, let's review for a bit. Pompeo's been competitive since 2016, 3-time #1 finisher on ladder, currently holds the record of a streak at 8 wins for CWA's Pro v Pro series. And of course, his finishes at GamerG in Mexico and the overall fall tournament. So Pompeo been around a little bit, but making his CRL head-to-head debut here against Crap.
And Crap playing that bomber. He loves the bomber.
Bomber is the only skeleton card that carries a bomb and doesn't drop it on death.
Wow. I think you kind of just blew my mind a little bit.
Bomb tower, balloon, giant skeleton. Where's the bomber's bomb go?
Just a lot of hate there. A lot of hate for the poor little bomber guy. And Executioner, so Bomber, Executioner, Giant Skeleton, a lot of splash cards. Got the Skellies in there for a nice quick cycle, or to help your cycle, I should say.
I don't know if I've ever seen a Giant Skeleton stay on the board as long as that just happened.
This deck is fascinating to me right now.
Gotta expect a NATO somewhere in here for Akrap.
Yeah, and you think at the top of your screen you're going to see Graveyard from Pompeo. Man, that Executioner just... It's incredibly satisfying to watch it attack units now because it does so much damage.
And Akrap does not like seeing that giant skeleton fall in that moment. Thought for a second he might have a path through towards the tower to create some pressure.
No, sir.
So double elixir time. Now we'll see if these guys pick up the pace.
Akrap cycling cards in the back, still not wanting to commit too much to either lane, knowing that he's most likely playing against Graveyard. He wants to preserve either his Executioner or his Bomber.
And the skeletons do provide a little help against that Graveyard as well.
That's true. They demand a response out of your opponent that is always going to be a negative elixir trade. Now I was going to say, if he's going Bomber at the river, it's got to be Graveyard.
And Bomber does get one big shot. A couple skeleton hits in here, sitting on 2196 on the left-hand side. Baby Dragon crossing for Pompeo, picked up by the giant skeleton.
Yeah, Pompeo leaking an elixir or so right there, trying to figure out what he wants to do. Should have maybe pulled the trigger on the Graveyard.
And now it's Pompeo's turn to go giant skeleton Graveyard and poison down.
Wow, those skeletons just saved AC's life there.
And the Bomber as well, so very nicely defended by Akrap as we go into sudden death.
Yeah, and both these guys fairly even, both of them playing the same win condition with very, very different decks, except for, of course, the giant skeleton.
So here we go, Giant Skeleton with the Dark Prince behind, going for that push, not gonna get it because Giant Skeleton in response from Akrap right at the bridge.
Graveyard, as a win condition on the season, is 5-1 in games.
And spending his poison offensively is Akrap, not worried about a Graveyard push in the moment.
Yeah, maybe trying to bait out an aggressive push here from Pompeo. And it looks like that's exactly what he had planned, Rich. He knew that if he spent the poison on offense, Pompeo would drop his Graveyard thinking that he had a window.
And now it's Akrap's turn to respond. Not getting a lot out of this Graveyard, a couple ticks here and there, but remember, we are in a low single tower situation, so down at 1779 with 2 minutes to go, Akrap currently in the lead.
Yep, Giant Skeleton up high, going to stop that Graveyard push right in its tracks. Maybe something that Pompeo needs to utilize more to his advantage instead of trying to create an offensive presence with his Giant Skeleton. Maybe stop Akrap's offense from units crossing the river.
And here he goes. Now Akrap will use that poison defensively, and there comes the NATO very, very late in this game.
And not a lot left in the tank for Akrap. That Dark Prince is incredibly healthy.
That was a brilliant tornado by Pompeo, pulling the Bomber over to that right-hand lane, so he would not keep distracting the Dark Prince moving that way, and suddenly a ton of splash damage. Pompeo now firmly in control.
Yeah, and that King Tower activation is going to be a lot of help, but with only a minute left remaining, it does feel like Akrap needs a miracle, and this is his last-ditch effort.
Well, here he is loading up right-hand side. Giant Skeleton, Bomber behind. A lot of aerial troops, not much to do against those. Mega Minion in support.
Skelly's dropped to defend that Baby Dragon, but we're actually unnecessary.
So this is going to be it right here, Andrew.
Yeah. And I think he's going to go Graveyard right. Yeah.
There he goes, Graveyard right. Dark Prince high. NATO to pull it in.
A very nice NATO. Now we got Skelly's taking for the Bomber.
But a defensive poison, late game defensive poison for Pompeo.
Yeah.
And that's going to seal it. Very, very well played and an excellent head-to-head debut for Cream's newest edition.
Yeah, Pompeo taking his very first head-to-head victory and doing it very well against not a mirror matchup, but obviously the same win condition on both sides. Very, very different deck construction. Pompeo, there you go.
Just sat on that poison for so long, using it at the most important moment. And for a minute, it looked like Crab had the right idea. You saw him use that poison early on the Ice Wiz, trying to make sure he was ahead on damage. Not really worrying about the finish, but worrying about maybe the long game.
Yes.
But then one bad defensive sequence changed everything.
Yeah, there was just a couple small mistakes here and there with dropping units or wasting elixir, even if it's just one elixir on the skeletons, where all of a sudden it kind of compiled. We always talk about how mistakes in this game really kind of compile and start to begin a snowball effect, and that's exactly what happened when you saw Crap with the Baby Dragon and the Dark Prince coming down his right-hand lane. He just had no response.
Well, it was a very nice nado from Pompeo. The bomber was placed far enough away. The Dark Prince continued to go that way, might have gone to the Executioner, and now you don't have that same support and damage on the right-hand side. Pulled it over, Dark Prince knocked it out, and then right to the tower.
Yeah, so game number 2 in the books. Each squad losing one of their individual representatives. RF up next for Immortals, going against Pompeo.
RF taking the tower for Immortals. Positive win rate lifetime in King of the Hill by about 2 wins.
Yesterday he went 2-1 against, of course, Energy.
Pompeo currently undefeated in King of the Hill.
Yeah.
And pretty standard openings from both players, cycling Magic Archer in the back for Pompeo, and the pressure with the Furnace from the God RF.
Looks like Pompeo may be running some sort of bridge spam deck or P.E.K.K.A deck.
Yeah, the Magic Archer E-Wiz combination has been growing more popular with bridge spam variations lately. And feeling a lot like it's going to be Royal Giant from the God RF.
Yeah, there you go. And there's the P.E.K.K.A. Hey, look at us.
So a little throwback here with the RG Furnace. You know how we feel about that one?
We were
And E-Wiz to the middle, and look at that. The log pushing that battle ram just in range so the E-Wiz can get a stun.
Yeah, and it was a very well played E-Wiz, but still just a little low on elixir and a lot of P.E.K.K.A health to deal with. Leaves RF now down at 1569. Royal Giant thus far in 2019 has a 20% win rate.
I am thoroughly surprised, Andrew.
Color me shocked, Rich.
And Pompeo keeping the pressure on. And Lumberjack does get zapped out, but RF doing a good job keeping the Magic Archer shots off tower.
Yeah, should have maybe waited just a half second longer on that Baby Dragon drop so that the Princess Tower would have assisted, but not the end of the world.
And choosing to just go with the log E-Wiz combination in defense works out very well for RF as we enter double elixir time.
Yeah, and not using the Furnace is a very, very good idea when defending against that battle ram, because you need the Furnace here to just create a small presence in the weaker lane, or your weaker lane, I should say.
Might see a Royal Giant push to the right here, potentially. Oh, a very nice lightning.
He was just a hair behind in timing from getting that Lumberjack takeaway, over 1,000 HP on that right-hand tower.
So going into sudden death, Pompeo currently in control. No Fisherman in cycle right now. E-Wiz to the opposite lane. This might be a chance for RF to get a few shots back in the game.
Yeah, he gets 2 in. Lumberjack going to do a little bit of work on that P.E.K.K.A. And the Royal Giant actually squeaks in front of the P.E.K.K.A, which is exactly what Pompeo wants.
And that P.E.K.K.A might get a swing here on the right-hand side, and it does. So now trouble on both sides for RF.
Yeah, and one more big Barbarian swing in on the left. Wow, Fisherman already picked his target. That Lumberjack does not do what RF was expecting.
And E-Wiz down in support, so a very healthy P.E.K.K.A crossing the bridge. Might expect some more support behind it. Magic Archer gets there just a half step early. Will that Magic Archer shot get on tower? Oh, that's a lot of damage.
That is a ton of damage. The zap comes in, but that will not be enough.
And now RF kind of in desperation mode, pushing really, really hard. And again, the Fisherman chose its target before the Lumberjack gets down.
Yeah, that is gonna do it. I mean, right now, Pompeo played this deck picture perfect. Whether it was Magic Archer plays to get damage on the tower, the holding onto the P.E.K.K.A. to distract only the Royal
look
Giant.
at that.
Yeah.
Very, very well played. Again, finishing off with a opportunistic Magic Archer placement. Pompeo, 2-0 in King of the Hill.
So now Royal going to be coming out for the boys in blue, for Immortals, and he is the last-ditch effort to try to end this in 2 sets. But right now, Pompeo is hot, and he is playing very, very good Clash Royale.
Yeah, just some great adjustments and really a lot of heads-up plays.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you know, you see someone who plays on as a streamer a lot, they often go for big moves, trying to entertain the crowd. And when you've done that over and over and over again, it's easier to do that here.
Oh, yeah, 150%. If you feel pressure at home, there's going to be exponentially more here. So let's go back and take a look at that last game, specifically at some of those great plays from Pompeo.
So here we go. It's the Fisherman, again, choosing that target. And this was the story of the final minute or two of the game, Andrew, was the Fisherman choosing its target before the Lumberjack comes down. The E was in support, and it felt like RF might still be in the game up until about this moment.
Yeah, right here. Even though the Magic Archer has dropped 1 tile too far to the right, it doesn't actually matter because the Baby Dragon is moving along. The Zap comes in to help out a couple big-time hits from that Magic Archer on the tower. And right there you see maybe just to help cycle ability, maybe create offensive presence in the right-hand lane, comes a Battle Ram, and then a Fisherman once again. Great Fisherman pulls. If you don't have the P.E.K.K.A. in cycle, it doesn't matter. You have the Fisherman to pull that Royal Giant away.
Yeah, and twice in a row was the Lumberjack just a half step late behind the Royal Giant.
Yeah.
And if that Lumberjack had in either one of those situations, especially the second one, been a half step earlier, we might have had an RF victory.
100%. I mean, and props, kudos to Pompeo for making that work. But now, Immortals bringing out Royal to try to take down the rookie.
Pompeo 1 game away from a clean King of the Hill sweep. Of course, Cream really wants him to pull that off so they can go to the 3rd and final set. Of course, to win this game, they have to go through Royal not once, not twice, but 3 times.
Yeah, Royal, a guy that's 25-9 in the 1v1 set, 11-9 in King of the Hill, so you definitely know he enjoys having those best of series to kind of pick apart his opponent.
So bait for Pompeo.
And a Sparky deck for Royal. Oh, that hurts.
That's a rocket.
So that won't be happening again.
And well, you gotta expect that Royal had to expect that once it was a bait deck.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say 90% of the time you have Rocket in your respective bait decks. Maybe 99% of the time, honestly.
Maybe he felt like he had to test it and see if there really was a rocket or not. At some point, he's going to have to, so.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Maybe trying to just figure it out, see what he's going up against. And 1738 to 1940 is not the end of the world.
It's a Sparky Miner deck.
Yeah,
very interesting for Royal.
It honestly is a Mortar deck. It's a Mortar bait deck with Sparky instead of Mortar right now. So we'll see what that last card is. You'd expect it to be something kind of beefy.
Goblin Gang, last second, turns the Prince away from the tower. 1:40 passed so far in this game.
Maybe a zap, there we go.
And Pompeo tries to spread him a little bit thin, going back and front at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what those bait decks do. They can be so frustrating to play against. They just chip, chip, chip away all game until all of a sudden you realize you are just 1 or 2 rockets away from doom.
And here we go. Sparky opposite lane wants to make Pompeo spin to the right.
And he does. What is that 8th card? I just have to know.
Bowler.
There it is. Goblin Giant Miner bait with Sparky.
You know, I mean, it's not unheard of to see a Goblin Giant Sparky deck with Miner. It's happened a little bit here and there. But with all these fast bait cards, makes a really fascinating combination.
Oh, and that is a very, very nice fireball, and that Miner is tanking for those Spear Goblins.
And suddenly Royal is roaring into the lead.
866, 769, just a couple of rockets away. 432 is what the rocket does, but he does have Snowball.
And that's the really hard part right now for Royal is, you know, he's battled back, he's taken the lead, but he can't afford to give that many more shots or suddenly he finds himself in rocket range.
Yeah, 100%. He's in a very, very precarious situation. He has to play this incredibly intelligently, especially because he relies on the bait cards so much.
Oh, that's going to be
it right there.
Wow. Pompeo takes out Immortals. 1, 2, 3. Welcome to CRL West.
Wow, and Cream's bench is ecstatic, and they have every right to be. That was so well played by the man that is no longer eligible in the most important set.
Wow, that's very important to keep in mind. Pompeo did play in the 2v2, so we're going to see Lindsay or Luke Dubs in this final 1v1 set against Royal for sure, but Pompeo comes out, plays 3 very different decks, plays the Graveyard Splash Yard deck, played the Bridge Spam, and then out here with Bait.
Yeah.
Bait making its comeback in CRL West Fall.
Yeah, a very, very strong showing with that bait deck. You saw there at the very end, Royal only had one chance to try to pick up that Goblin Barrel, and it was immediately taken off the board by Pompeo. Incredibly well played. He demanded the fireball at the river. Royal had no options.
Yeah, I mean, he was spreading him thin, and we've talked about some of these fast decks, these bait decks earlier on, forcing your opponent to make decisions, and that's what Pompeo did in this sequence.
And that rocket was only used to take care of the Sparky when it was played behind King Tower, which you gotta respect. Someone that is this green to CRL, but not to competitive play, making moves like that on the big stage, just wow, I salute you, Pompeo.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 down. But of course, remember, Pompeo played 2v2, not eligible for this final set. So we'll see who they choose to send out against Royal. We'll also see how does Trainer Luis prepare Royal for the 3rd and final set.
So Royal falls in King of the Hill, but comes into his comfort set, the 1v1 set, best of 3, lowest single tower. 25-9 is Royal's record in 1v1. On the other side of it, you have Lindsay coming out for Cream, who is at an even 13-13.
Last time these two teams met in CRL West in the spring, it was Immortals going out with a 2-set sweep. Royal did not play at all in that set, so first time for him meeting the Cream players on the CRL stage.
And Lindsay, just to remind you of his 1v1 skill level, he is 16-11 in King of the Hill, so he actually has a more favorable record than the respected man, the respected Golem God, Royal.
Yeah, I do think Royal is more of a full set player.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those things that, you know, you really get to get in the mind of your opponent after games 1 and even game 2. Get into your opponent's mind, not the minds of your opponent.
What if your opponent has multiple minds?
I just don't want to play against him.
And one Barbarian does get to tower, so Giant Skeleton doesn't stop all the damage. Looking like Graveyard from Lindsay thus far.
Yeah, and Royal just running back another iteration of P.E.K.K.A. Bridge Spam. We'll see if Fisherman comes in, Magic Archer, E-Wiz. Which variant is up to him.
So hitting 10, Royal throws a zap out in the opposite tower, and now goes Royal Ghost again, and here comes the Graveyard push.
Should be pretty easy to clean up here. Definitely going to take... Oh, wow. Nope, that is a lot more damage than I thought.
The Dark Prince maintained tower aggro even after that Fisherman pull, so right idea, doesn't quite get it out of range.
And that was another excellent use of the Fisherman. One of the reasons why this deck works so well, you pull away your opponent's response to the Battle Ram, and a big big connection. Both towers below 600 HP, Rich.
Wow, that is huge. And Giant Skeleton does not get close to tower. P.E.K.K.A down in time. Suddenly, Royal firmly in command as we approach the final 30 seconds of regulation.
Yeah, that was absolutely perfectly played. And he knew it. He knew exactly what Lindsay had to do. He had to drop something in the path of that battle rim, and it had to be something on the ground.
NATO a little outside of the Giant Skeleton bomb, so preserves the Baby Dragon and that E-Wiz. Barbarian on the tower on the right-hand side.
Yep.
This is looking like game number 1 will go to Royal.
Oh, with a 2-tower take nonetheless. So Royal goes, look, you guys can take me in King of the Hill, but I am back for the 1v1 set. A dominant display in game number 1.
Very, very well played, and dealt with some adversity early on, not quite clearing out the Dark Prince and eating a lot of damage from the graveyard, but then turned around and put a dual lane punishment that Lindsay just could not recover from.
Yeah, the ability to turn that Fisherman into such a massive offensive presence when it didn't quite do its defensive job that he thought. Like you said, Dark Prince remained or maintained the aggro from the left-hand Princess Tower, and that Ice Wizard coupled with the graveyard did a lot of damage, taking away about half the HP on Royal's left-hand tower, but after that, it was all downhill for Lindsay.
So 1 game in the books, you see a big breath there for the Cream representative trying to figure out what he wants to do in this moment. We'll see what choices he makes when he comes back out against a very, very, very difficult 1v1 player. Look, they might be very similar in King of the Hill. Royal 26-9 overall in the 1v1 set.
And another thing to speak about those numbers, Rich, is you know in the 1v1 set, you're playing against your opponent's best. Whereas in King of the Hill, they're still going to be great players. They're here at CRL, but it's not always their best head-to-head player that those numbers are adding up to.
So both players taking it very slowly in this second game.
You know, we've called Royal the Golem God many, many times, but definitely one of those things where you get painted into a corner and everyone knows you're a Golem guy, everyone expects Golem, so something that we haven't actually seen him play in a very long time.
Yeah, before CRL Season 1, where Royal with Immortals played in the North American region, Royal was really referred to a lot as a Golem one-trick, kind of derisively.
Yeah.
And he came out, did not play a ton of Golem in Season 1, had a couple big Golem games he pulled out, where of course he showed why he's known so well for Golem, but really doesn't turn to his comfort that often. He's expanded himself a lot as a competitive player.
Yeah, and I think that's incredibly important because there is going to be one day, one match somewhere where all of a sudden Golem's out into play and he just dominates because, again, it is his card. But right now, he doesn't need the Golem. That is towered down most likely. Oh, excuse me, that was very well cleaned up. I thought the Mega Minion had a little bit more HP.
Yeah, that zap from Lindsay did solve a lot of those final problems. Zap in response to keep the charge off his tower will take 1 swing, but Royal now with a solid lead on this left-hand lane as we pass the midway point of regulation.
Yeah, for the minute there, it looked like Lindsay didn't have any responses with E-Wiz and the Baby Dragon out of cycle, and so much coming down the lane for Royal.
So P.E.K.K.A in the back in single elixir. Often you'd see someone punished by going hard right at the bridge opposite lane. This time instead, Royal opts to go into the same lane as the P.E.K.K.A. Should see guards here in just a moment. There we go.
Very, very good counter to the P.E.K.K.A. Very high DPS and, of course, the shield. And I don't actually really like that aggressive battle ram. You know that he's got Goblin Cage in his hand. Maybe he forgot.
And this time, Lava again in the back. P.E.K.K.A at the bridge.
Guards are back in cycle. We'll see when he decides to use them.
And notice that late guards drop, Andrew, making sure the Baby Dragon went to the Lava Hound first so they didn't get wiped off the board.
And also notice how it was a surround. They weren't grouped together, so that Mama P.E.K.K.A has to pick and choose and turn, and we all know she does not like to move at all.
So heading into sudden death overtime, Royal in control on damage and seemingly keeping Lindsay on the ropes from a decision-making standpoint as well. And Baby Dragon to the left, that's not being contested. So suddenly a lot of damage left-hand side.
Yeah, and a Lava Hound right behind to follow suit. You saw the P.E.K.K.A being played up high on the right-hand side of Lince, so now no real big threat offensively for Royal to have to worry about.
Very smart play with the Dark Prince from Lince with that EWIZ to turn the Baby Dragon away and preserve the EWIZ a little bit longer.
Double zap coming down to retarget the Princess onto the Miner, but then a zap of his own. Lince cleans up everything on the front end.
2 minutes remain. Royal firmly in control. At this point, just has to not make any mistakes, and this should be game, set, match in the bag.
I mean, right now, Royal has literally only taken poison damage on his Princess Towers. And just because I said that, we get a big-time Dark Prince connection.
Yeah, Dark Prince just going to town there. Royal kind of letting this run roughshod over that right-hand side.
Yeah, I mean, he ends up taking it, and that's going to be the game right there. Game, set, and match. Royal saw it coming. You and I were starting to sweat just a little bit. Royal not worried at all, so Immortals takes this in 3 sets.
So very similar to the first time out, Immortals making things interesting in the long run. Of course, this time the script a little bit different, but look, the first match, it was 2v2 win from Akrap and the God RF, and then swept in King of the Hill, and then Royal comes out and gets the 1v1 victory. And again, same thing here, 2v2 win. Pompeo came out and made it look easy, and then in the last set, Royal came out and said, nah guys, I got this, and closed things out in style.
Yeah, that is 4 games played by Royal in the 1v1 set with not a loss in the books here at CRL West Fall split. And right now, Immortals feeling on top of the world after 2 big wins and no Lapakati.
I was about to say the same thing, Andrew. Consensus Rookie of the Year from the spring season, who had boasted an overall 72% win rate, which is insane. Above 70% is wild. He's not here. No Lapo, no problems. Immortals now 2-0 on the season.
I mean, we've talked to Supercell Analytics before. If you have a very high win rate, an over 70% win rate, you're getting nerfed. So right now, if they were in charge, Lapakati might be getting nerfed. Immortals, very, very happy with where they're sitting. Cream should still be proud of what they did. They did pretty well in the 2v2. They did great in King of the Hill. Pompeo showed why he's so respected as a head-to-head player. However, again, same question we asked with who they faced yesterday, who Immortals faced yesterday in Energy. Do you move Buffmac out of the 2v2? Do you move Pompeo now out of the 2v2?
It's a big question. I mean, Pompeo, we don't know if he's their best head-to-head player necessarily. Right. Definitely had a great performance today. Look, Lince did some amazing stuff last season. Just ran into a guy who was playing at the top of his game in Royal in these 2 games. So those are really hard questions to ask. Cream, again, now finding themselves 0-2 on the season, kind of shockingly.
I mean, they're 0-2, but they've played great. I mean, they took out Sam and Morton. They swept Immortals and King of the Hill. It does seem to be that their woes come when it is in head-to-head play. Now, again, a sweeping King of the Hill is great, but you're not always going up against your opponent's best. And if you are, maybe only 1 game, and you could have a favorable matchup, or they can make mental mistakes. So if I'm Cream, I'm going back to the drawing board, and I'm going to figure out how I get my head-to-head all-star in that set, that 3rd and final set.
Maybe. I mean, on the other half of that, look who they've gone up against in that final set. Javi 14 and then Royal. So you're talking about 2 1v1 players who are near the top of the best in the business in that final set.
Yeah, I mean, they're, respectively number 2 and number 3 in the last season. So, those are the type of people that you're going to run into in that set. And especially if you want to make it to the World Finals, if you want to get in that top 2 at the end of the tournament gauntlet, you need to be able to put down people like Javi 14 and, of course, Royal.
Well, it was a great performance for Immortals. Let's go down and rejoin Kelly Link on the floor, standing by with Akrap.
Yes, indeed. I have Akrap here with me, coming off of that win there. First, though, we got to talk about the 2v2. And you guys went with a Graveyard build. The casters were saying that you guys love Graveyard, so why would you ban it? What was the plan there?
Honestly, we just wanted to make them uncomfortable. We feel really good this season about our 2v2. We've been doing a lot of practicing, a lot of winning, and we felt, if we get them, out of their comfort zone, we really should be able to win. We feel really, really solid right now.
Well, speaking of those comfort zones, you did lose game 1 for the 2v2s, but it was very close the whole time and you were able to turn it around. What exactly changed from games 1 to 2?
Honestly, it was just a lot of confidence. You know, we did lose, but we felt like we played really well. And the important thing is that we bounced back. We wanted to go with a strong second deck. And then we felt like it was a deck that would allow us to outplay. And we got a great matchup, and then we were able to get the second win and then get the third win because of that.
Well, speaking of bouncing back, unfortunately, your opponents bounced back in King of the Hill, and Pompeo swept you guys. What exactly happened there?
Honestly, Pompeo played really, really well. I know he was like, especially in my game, he was able to recognize early on, like he had, I think, 3, air targeting troops, and I only had 2. At one point, he was able to get me in a cycle where I couldn't do anything if he rushes the bridge. He recognized that and was able to do that. And yeah, he just played really, really well. And yeah.
Well, something that other teams don't have to deal with is that you guys only have 3 players. How exactly has that affected your team, or has it at all?
It definitely has affected it. Practices can get kind of weird if we only have like 3 people going, but we all have a lot of faith in ourselves and each other as teammates. And it doesn't matter if we have 3, 6, 30 people. We feel like going into each game that we're going to get the win, and so far we've been able to do that.
Well, clearly that worked out for you guys here, taking the win, so congratulations on that. But for you all, we're heading right back to the casters.
So a great job by Immortals once again, and once again getting the win without Lapacati.
I know. Perfect through 2 matches without Lapacati. Their head-to-head phenom, if you will. I mean, Royal is definitely their specialist. He's been around with them for a long time, but not having Lapacati and doing what they've been doing thus far at CRL West Fall is absolutely terrifying if I'm the rest of the league.
So 2-0 are the former North American champions, and we aren't done yet, though. Moving from North America all the way to Spain, a battle of 2 Spanish squads. Fnatic facing off against Queso. 2 squads with an updated roster, updated look, and updated hopes.
Yeah, very, very curious to see if Fnatic can pick up their first win. We'll go and find out right now.
Coming up next, Fnatic faces off against Team Queso. Andrew, when these 2 squads met in the spring, Fnatic took that match in 2 straight sets, but this is a very different Fnatic and a very different Team Queso.
Yeah, and a much stronger Team Queso in my mind. Not that Team Queso was ever a team that you slept on, but the addition of Ruben and the way that they played yesterday just seems like they are going to be at the top of the standings by the end of this season.
Yeah, they definitely feel like they have new life breathed into the team. Of course, we can't forget that Benihou and Kuchiku were both top-tier players in Season 1 in CRL Europe, CRL EU, and then had a little bit of a dip last season, but they're both still at that very high level. On the other side of it, Fnatic has a massive change, giving up one of the best head-to-head players in the game, Javi Catorze, to SK Gaming, and replacing them with a talented rookie, but a rookie nonetheless in Basoto.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, you're still a rookie. I think the biggest thing about that rookie getting comfortable for Fnatic is maybe pairing him up with FaZe, someone who is known as a 2v2 dominant player. We've found that when you throw the rookie into the 2v2 set, it's a nicer way to ease into the season and ease into competitive play.
It's going to be a big question to answer. How does this young, very talented player get comfortable quickly, not having been here for the last, I mean, he's a late arrival on top of that.
Yeah.
So he has to get comfortable very, very quickly. We'll see if he can get that together and get himself focused and ready to play. Of course, Team Queso, you have the other guy, Ruben, who's a rookie as well, but who now has 1 match under his belt, and not just 1 match, but 1 really excellent performance.
Yeah, I mean, not only did he stop Razor from pulling off a King of the Hill sweep, he also took that 2v2 set. So, going over to the blue team, we've got Fnatic's Faye, Asuchini, who is actually more of like a player coach this season, Mikel04 Yerai, and as we've been talking about, the new addition, Basoto.
Across from them on the other side of the board, Team Queso. Recognize a lot of this from last season, Kuchiku, Benihoo, Dark Angel, and Azealis. And then, of course, the addition of the superstar from Spain, 16-year-old Ruben, now joining the squad, of course, with that big splashy debut. Currently sitting at a 100% 3-0 win rate in CRL.
Yeah, and I think this is really a bigger moment for Fnatic than it is actually for Team Queso. Fnatic came out and got swept by Misfits in 2 sets, and I think a lot of people in here, including you and myself, were a bit surprised at that turnout. Not that we thought that Misfits couldn't do it, as it is a new formed team with a new roster. It was more so about the way Fnatic played their 2v2. So looking at the ban cards, we have the Goblin Cage banned here for Fnatic, and on the other side of it, Team Queso pulling out that Giant Skeleton ban.
Giant Skeleton, pretty common ban. Goblin Cage, I think that's a new one here. And you do see some reasons why, of course, because of the value it gives defensively in the Elixir banking, but not a traditional 2v2 ban.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Goblin Cage is it's still so powerful defensively, and the nice thing about having it in 2v2 is that you have a building to pull a unit over and then in turn a tank to maybe support your higher DPS units down the road, especially because the Elixir flows more slowly. It's nice to kind of get a 2-for-1 with the Goblin Cage.
So Mikkel and Faye taking the podium one more time for Fnatic, each one looking for their first win on this fall split. Across from them, Ruben and Kuchiku teaming up in the 2v2 set. And of course, Ruben here currently sitting on a fantastic 100% win streak. So we'll see how Ruben and Kuchi work well together. Of course, Ruben and Benihoo performed very admirably in 2v2 their last time out.
Absolutely. 2v2 set coming your way right now.
Jumping into the action here to open up this first set, Faye and Mikkel have a lot of experience together, of course. Did not turn out in their benefit in their opening match of the season, falling 0-2 to Misfits.
Yeah, Misfits Wings and Trainer Chris kind of put on a clinic yesterday. So here we have Kuchiku and Ruben coming out together instead of Ruben and Benihoo, despite their success. But that was one of the things that made Queso so strong in the original season of CRL EU, was that Queso had so many 2v2 duos that they could throw at you that it was nearly impossible to strategize or game against them. So we'll see if they're going to go for that now with a bit more of a stacked roster. And you got to remember, when Azealis started playing 2v2 in the spring, he went 5-0 in that set. So we'll see if he actually pops his head up in this maybe in their next match.
Very possible. You see Team Queso running the Executioner in 2v2, and we've had a chance to talk to some of the teams a little bit about the Executioner. And in 2v2, the consensus seems to be that he's valuable, but he's ban dependent.
Yes, exactly. We were talking to some of the pros earlier today, and they let us know that it's really all dependent on the bans, especially because the range is so short that even though the DPS is there, a lot of times it'll just really not do what you need it to in those critical moments.
Mega Knight in front of King Tower for Fnatic, picks up the Prince. First minute and 30 away so far. No huge damage. Graveyard comes down for Fnatic's first true offensive salvo.
Yep, and Team Queso very, very happy, I'm sure, that they have Poison in hand. We'll see if they have a second Poison or not to meet with probably a second Graveyard.
Fisherman pulls the Musketeer across. An immediate freeze, very well timed by Fnatic.
Yeah, that was excellently timed because I was really impressed by the pull of the Fisherman there, but the freeze was actually a great way to save that.
And Fnatic trying to NATO those troops away, and they do get the job done, but still a lot of damage with this Graveyard Bush.
Yeah, and those Skeletons just saved about 600 more minimum with that Executioner almost getting its blade on tower.
And looks like Team Queso smelling blood in the water, recognizing their opponents are low on Elixir. Graveyard comes down again immediately, and now under 500 HP is the right-hand tower, now under 400 for Fnatic.
Yeah, you know if you have to use a freeze defensively on a Graveyard, you are in a very, very rough situation, because in order for you to actually get maximum usage or effectiveness out of it, you have to take a ton of damage waiting for most of the Skeletons to spawn.
So Team Queso appears to be in control as we move into sudden death overtime. Can Fnatic right the ship in sudden death, or will this be an opening game for Queso? And looks like it will be We're in poison range. That's going to be it. Team Queso closes things out and takes game number 1. Ruben, still a perfect 4-0 on the season.
You know, this is starting to become a bit of a head-scratcher here, Rich, because Faye and Mikkel04, it's not like they're a weak 2v2 duo. They're actually a very strong 2v2 duo, so really seems like they're having a difficult time getting their rhythm, or at least getting their momentum started here at the beginning of the season.
They had, I mean, historically, Faye is one of the best 2v2 players in the league, going all the way back to CRL EU. He had the best 2v2 set and game record in the spring split, despite Fnatic not making it into that top 3 place. He was a big part of how they got into the playoffs in the first place. So it is interesting to see them struggling at this juncture in the season, but a lot of people do say that the overall level of CRL West is higher in the fall.
I mean, I completely agree. I love it, and here we go. Game number 2. Can Faye and Mikkel bounce back?
Game in hand for Queso. One more, of course, will close out the set. Faye and Mikkel both looking for their first victory still in this fall split.
Yeah, in that last game, it just really seemed like Faye and Mikkel had a very difficult time defending against the Graveyard. They were just spending a ton of elixir, maybe in the wrong places. You know, that moment where they had to freeze the Skellies was really the turning point in that last game.
Well, it was 2 back-to-back defensive freezes, Andrew. The one at the river as well. Just, it seemed at the moment like they were going for something interesting, but really it was trying to stop the bleeding, and we suddenly saw a big open wound moments later.
Yeah, I think it actually was that first freeze at the river. I think they should have just let the Musketeer go, probably let the P.E.K.K.A go, and then played safer, more stout defense on their side of the map.
So changing things up is Fnatic, going Ram Rider instead of Graveyard.
See that Ram Rider still connects, and of course the defensive miner comes down just to stop that Mega Knight leap.
And so now it's Fnatic's turn to turn up the pressure in game number 2, trying to keep Team Queso busy and expending elixir on the defensive side of the board.
Probably should have went somewhere tricky with that miner, seeing that Team Queso just used their NATO. It's not usual that both players have NATO in 2v2.
1698 top left tower as we pass the midway point of regulation, and now Fnatic goes Baby Dragon in the back.
And Team Queso responds with a P.E.K.K.A in the back of their own in the opposite lane.
Just a reminder, Goblin Cage and Giant Skeleton are the bans for this 2v2 set. P.E.K.K.A's going opposite lanes from each other. We'll see if either squad uses the setup, and we're going Balloon with Team Queso.
Yeah, so we'll see exactly how Fnatic plans on dealing with this, and that was perfect right there. That Lightning Ram Rider combo was excellent.
And Team Queso choosing to let the Ram Rider connect and go for a King Tower activation. Immediate Balloon opposite lane.
Very nice Mega Knight there to get that Executioner out of play on these defensive troops. There we go. We're going to say we're going to need something else.
Well, Andrew, that Mega Knight also did a good job of stopping the ground troop from getting in front of the balloon and allowing the Ram Rider to stun the balloon.
Yeah, Ram Rider is such a great response to the balloon and obviously the Hog Rider.
So entering into sudden death overtime, Fnatic currently in the lead on both towers. We'll see if they can extend that here as we go into the final 3 minutes.
If I'm Fnatic, I just completely ignore that Executioner in the right-hand lane. And they do. Ish. Team Queso might have bitten off more than they can chew in this moment.
Taking a lot of damage on the left-hand side, but now a fairly healthy counter push, but going into a lot of defensive elixir on Fnatic's side.
And you knew the balloon was going to come down when they had the healthy P.E.K.K.A and Executioner there. Mega Knight not going to be enough on the ground.
High freeze. Miner comes in, but Snowball does enough to keep that balloon off tower, but death damage will get in. Suddenly we have a fight on our hands here, Andrew.
Yeah, just separated by barely over 100 HP. Team Queso was clawing, scraping their way back into this one.
So we'll see how Queso chooses to make use of this Executioner. Lightning does a lot to take out that entire push, and now needing to do something about this Ram Rider, does not get a connection.
So both squads kind of rinsing and repeating their tactics right now. You wonder which one's going to switch it up to end up getting through.
Snowball for Snowball. Balloon.
Oh,
might
that balloon
get a connection, just doesn't.
Oh, man. That is why the Ram Rider is just so OP.
And now opposite side down to under 700 HP is the tower of Team Queso. Both teams fighting to get that last chunk of damage.
Yeah, and you know, Team Queso now just begging for a small hit, whether it's death damage, minor on the tower, but it gets picked up because they do not have enough spell damage at the moment. 386 remaining, but only a fireball and zap.
And that death damage would have been very helpful, and now have to deal with yet another Ram Rider. They will not stop coming in. So far, Team Queso doing a good job of preventing more Ram Rider damage. That log was huge.
And this should be it right here. Fnatic breaks through. That should be enough. Just need a lightning.
Is there a block potentially for Team Queso?
There it is.
There is not. Fnatic gets on the winner's column, takes game number 2.
Just barely. 185 HP remaining. That was a fantastic minor pickup in the back. That honestly would have been the game right there. But Fnatic hangs on, fights back. We are even at 1-1.
That was a nail biter, Andrew. So close the entire way through. And now Fnatic taking a timeout to regroup and make a plan for this third and final deciding game of our opening set.
Yeah, you wonder what both squads are going to do, what decks they're going to come out with. They were much, much closer in that second one. Ruben and Kuchi just having a very difficult time breaking through with the balloon. Their miners were really the biggest source of damage in that whole game.
They just couldn't find a way to get around the Ram Rider. And they had a good opportunity early on, but the Mega Knight stopped those troops from protecting for the balloon, and Ram Rider stemmed it over and over and over again, and that kept being the story. You talked about the same interaction back and forth, and Queso just could not find a way to tower.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to criticize him too much because there's only 185 HP remaining, just one more fireball away, but with such a quick cycle deck, and obviously with the balloon there, it would have been nice to see them try to switch lanes up just once or twice to make, you know, Fnatic split up their defensive elixir.
So here we are, game in hand for each team, a third and final one to decide our opening set.
So here we go. Game 3 to decide this opening set, and however important this set is for setting up your squad for success going the following 2.
Yeah, both of these teams have interesting groups going into the King of the Hill set. As we talked about before, some big changes. Fnatic no longer having Javi 14 certainly changes the outlook in sets 2 and 3.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge moment there. You lose Javi 14, and that's a lot of ground to cover.
So Executioner 3 games in a row for Team Queso.
Yeah, I feel like Team Queso was actually the first squad to use Executioner yesterday.
And Pekka does not quite get there for a shot.
Iwa is going to sneak in front of the Pekka. That's always a bummer.
First minute away, offensive poison for Fnatic, getting some tower damage, work on the Musketeer as well.
And already 800 damage done to Team Queso's top left tower.
And they're going on the right-hand side for a graveyard, but immediately that Dark Prince picked up right at the bridge.
Yeah, Fnatic was just waiting for it.
And they get a connection out of that as well.
Yeah, that rage there paying dividends for Faye and Mikkel. So right now, firmly in the driver's seat, obviously playing against Graveyard that can disappear in just the blink of an eye. That snowball to ensure that the Electro Wizard was not going to get one more stab in from the Prince, but definitely unnecessary.
Here we go, entering double elixir time, and it is Ram Rider once again for Fnatic, and that is a massive sequence. Beautiful lightning, huge connection. Fnatic now firmly in the lead.
Yeah, the timing on that lightning was just excellent. The Ram Rider had a clear path straight to the tower. 9:35 remains. Honestly, and with 40 seconds left, Rich, right now, if I'm Fnatic, I'm playing strong defense and just stealing value with lightnings, logs, and snowballs when I can, preserving my poison for defense, and just chilling.
Chillin' and Bummer. Are you from Southern California?
I am. When did I say bummer?
When the E-Wiz goes in front of the P.E.K.K.A.
That is a bummer.
Prince connects on the P.E.K.K.A, but with that support, Prince goes down first. And now that right-hand tower for Fnatic getting down pretty close to the right-hand tower for Queso. And Queso just leaving that miner completely uncontested, choosing to go offensive, but that's a lot of damage there, Andrew.
Yeah, they're having a really difficult time with these units. Every single one of the units on the board hits more than one at a time, but they cannot seem to get them on more than one skeleton. Fisherman not going to pull the Ram Rider. Oh,
it does.
Wow.
Big, big pull, but Log also gets damage down to 403. Miner to the back, and a double drop in front of the tower to miss the miner.
Wow,
that's going to be it!
Fnatic steals the set in the reverse sweep, whether it was the miner, the baby dragon, and of course they had spells in, locked, ready to go. Team Queso's Ruben and Kuchiku just did not have enough in the tank.
And you saw there at the end, and this might be just part of incorporating a new member to the team, Ruben and Kuchiku double drop in the front rather than one in the front, one in the back. Miner gets away. That's it. Game over.
100%. Those are the small mental mistakes that we talk about. Those are the reasons why we applaud the duos that never make those mistakes so much. It was just, let's say, one elixir wasted because maybe the Skelly should have been up front or in the back, but that one elixir was the reason they lost the game.
So now Team Queso going into the King of the Hill set, down one set. Fnatic changing things up a lot from their first time out.
And this is a big moment for Ruben, Rich. Now that he's a rookie, he started off with a great showing. He's did nothing but win, but now he's lost 2 games in a row, and I'm curious to see how he bounces back, if he bounces back in the King of the Hill set.
Well, it seemed like Fnatic made some pretty good adjustments into game 2, and then Queso didn't adjust to those adjustments. It seemed like they ran the same idea 3 times in a row, and Fnatic was like, you give us 3 looks, we're going to figure that out. We are also pros. We've been doing 2v2 together more than you have as a duo.
Exactly.
We'll go and play your game and win it.
Right, so we're going to play your game, we're going to play at your level, but instead we have more chemistry, we have more synergy, better communication, just because they put in more man-hours together. That's not to say Team Queso hasn't put in the man-hours as a team in 2v2, but Ruben being the newcomer, there's just no way he's had as much experience on this stage with that guy.
So now we go into King of the Hill, and got to ask the question of what the lineups will be. Expecting on the Queso side, I expect that Kuchiku and Ruben will both appear in that set.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that you do put Ruben back in. I think it's another great moment for him, but we'll find that out right now with your King of the Hill lineups.
So leading off for Fnatic will be Faye, followed by Mikkel, with Yarai cleaning up if necessary. And then on the other side, Azealis takes the podium first with Dark Angel in the middle and Ruben batting cleanup potentially. So we will see how many of these 6 actually take the stage. Or does someone go 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, and speaking of 1, 2, and 3, it was Benny who, in the last King of the Hill appearance, who almost swept Complexity, but then it was Razor who looked like he was about to pull a reverse sweep. Ruben closed things out, and our apologies for the mistake. It was actually Kuchi and Ruben who did play in that first 2v2 set, Benny who dominated in King of the Hills. So there's a lot of pieces of paper up here on this desk, all right?
Yeah, they get moved around here and there. So Faye potentially playing that. Nope, not that minor deck. Never mind.
Yeah, looking like we're going to see a maybe Goblin Giant Double Prince, as that seems to be more popular than Giant Double Prince as of late.
And Azeali's looking like a version of Bridge Spam.
And there's your Goblin Giant going opposite lane.
So got to be very happy to see that Goblin Giant rather than a balloon, not having the snowball in there, going with the Zap version instead. And Faye just loading up on the left-hand side.
Yeah, trying to get those goblins in front of the Goblin Giant so the P.E.K.K.A. would be focused on them, but not actually able to with that very, very nice Royal Ghost placement.
High Ewiz turns the Prince back around, and now a fairly healthy P.E.K.K.A. marching across the river in the opposite direction.
Azili's career win rate is 54%, 7-6 in 1v1, and 8-11 in this King of the Hill set.
Azili's making his fall debut. Of course, we've talked about it before in the spring split, made a major shift over to 2v2, and it was very impactful for Queso. Not quite enough to turn around their season, but enough that we're a bit surprised not to see him in 2v2 this time around.
Yeah, I mean, his record in 2v2 is 14-8, and we talked about it before. It's 5 straight sets in a row when he was switching that 2v2 spot, and we were very surprised to even see him there, but paid off.
Well, he appeared in 2v2, I believe, twice in CRL EU, going 2-0 in both of those appearances. I could be misquoting that a bit, but I think that's the right number. Either way, he did well when he played 2v2 on the rare occasion on that season.
Yeah. And just close enough for that Royal Giant to get a bit of splash damage in the bottom right tower of Faye at 12-27 now, having a very, very difficult time mounting any sort of offensive presence.
And Azili's the quick hand raise, and another one here, so we'll see if there is a technical issue for Azili's. And does get a Ram Rider connection, so...
Yeah. I mean, if he has technical issues and he's playing like this.
Ewiz in front of King Tower. P.E.K.K.A. to the outside.
And Faye just loading up in the same lane over and over, right into the P.E.K.K.A., right into all the DPS troops, giving Magic Archer value at this moment, just really, really struggling in this head-to-head game.
And that's the big issue, Andrew, right into that Magic Archer. So there you go. Azili's going to take out Faye in this opening game of King of the Hill.
So I'm sure that raised hand won't actually matter, but I'm sure he's going to have a couple words with the official next to him. Make sure it does not happen again. Faye down, Mikkel04 up. Mikkel04 actually did pretty well in King of the Hill last season. He had 2 sweeps, one over SK, one over Pain. Those are massive, massive King of the Hill sweeps, but you got to remember that makes him 6-0 with those 2 sweeps. His record overall is 9-7, so definitely a very hot and cold player in this set.
Yeah, Mikkel's got a lot of head-to-head experience, of course, with a first-place finish on ladder and his #2 finish in the Honor Cup back in 2017, but doesn't always translate. You will say, though, finishing your season in a positive win rate in King of the Hill, nothing to be shy about.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, King of the Hill is a very odd beast. You can just come in it with a horrible matchup. You can have a bad cycle. And again, you only have 1 life, 1 chance, 1 opportunity.
Mikkel currently with a 54% career win rate, and that's including the 4 losses experienced from the other day, or the 3 losses from the other day. Of course, his 2v2 outing has improved that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It was just a rough start for Fnatic, but right now they're looking okay. Mikkel looking to take a victory from Team Queso in the second game of King of the Hill.
So the Frenchman still holding court on behalf of the cheesy ones, Azili's. 1 down, 2 to go. The longtime Clash Royale veteran would love to start off his season with a big showing.
Yeah, King of the Hill sweep would be a great way to start your season, but not everyone can be Michifu.
Both players taking their time in this opening. Mikkel, of course, a very well-known Sparky player. And Azili is taking a glance over to his opponent, little eyebrow raise.
So looking like both of these guys are very, very happy to wait.
Very curious here. And yeah, you can see Mikkel maybe a little bit frustrated, maybe starting to think about what the matchup might be given this long delay, since Azelis seems more than content to hang out and relax. Speaking of hanging out and relaxing, Andrew, I spent some time at the beach in San Diego this summer, and let me tell you, the beaches down there are some of the best in the world.
You know, I've heard that, Rich. Did you get a California burrito while you were there?
Of course. What else would you do? Oh, gameplay. Here we go.
So looking like maybe Sparky from Mikkel, as you were stating earlier, and Azelis probably running that really, really cool, fun clone deck.
Nice fireball value there for Mikkel. And this is one of the more deceptively annoying parts about this clone deck, Andrew, is that cannon cart.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that cannon cart crosses the river and for any reason locks on your tower and it gets cloned. All of a sudden, you get so much damage in, and there's really no way to stop the bleeding because you've either got something to deal with skeletons surrounding it or a giant skeleton on the front end.
So the pull does not quite do enough to open up the pathway for that giant skeleton. I believe that's very similar to what Mikkel tried to do last time out.
And that hook from the fisherman just saving him from the giant skeleton bomb, then doing work on that furnace. A very nice exchange there for Mikkel04.
I do kind of like the pronunciation Firmus, though.
Firmus.
Sounds like a very warm thermos, which is already warm usually.
And there you see going and getting that flying machine off of the board immediately. That's one of the units you always want to fireball if you can.
So not much done on either side as we make our way towards sudden death overtime. At the moment, both players being fairly conservative to open.
And with this deck, if they keep running into stalemates maybe over the next minute, minute and a half, Mikkel's got all the spell power, whereas Azelis has zero way to get damage on tower.
Well, the hard part with this deck, Andrew, is going to be you do start spell cycling, and next thing you know, all the clones are coming.
Yes, exactly. Giant Skeleton does help him out a bit. He can just kind of play it up high, and hopefully that bomb will take out the Witch, maybe the Flying Machine, Cannon Cart, things like that, but you have to make sure you put him in the right position.
Fisherman pulls the Hunter away, but that's all going to get eaten up by a big giant skeleton bomb.
So Azelis with just a slight HP lead, but once again has no direct tower damage ability. Interesting, a Royal Giant finally coming out.
You haven't seen much in the way of the Sparky Giant Skeleton combination, but this RG Giant Skeleton combination, very popular, and there you go, a couple of big shots from the Royal Giant.
Yeah, but there is no Giant Skeleton bomb there right now. Okay, so he drops another one, but will that be enough, and will it be in time?
Snowball not available. There we go, just comes out. Cannon Cart's down. That's going to be it. Azelis takes out 2 in a row in King of the Hill.
That is what is so frustrating about that deck, and that's something that we said a lot last season about the the Goblin Giant Sparky deck. You sit there and you play great defense for 5.5 minutes, right? And you miss just one exchange there, and you saw the snowball didn't come out in time. There was 1,000 skeletons on the tower, and it went way down, way quick.
So chalk one more up for the Frenchman, Team Queso. Elated to get this performance out of their veteran.
Yeah.
One more win will send them to the 1v1 set with a shot at starting their Season 2. And oh, Fnatic has to be frustrated, really feeling like they had a good opening and now looking like they're going to have to go to a third set potentially.
Yarai up next for Fnatic.
That deck, Andrew, continues to dominate, so annoying to deal with. You feel like, hey, it has no big spell, really has no real damage spell at all. Of course I can deal with this, but then something like this happens. Let's walk through the final moments of that last game.
Yeah, and the most frustrating thing about this deck, Rich, is you know exactly what they're going to do. You know what their game plan is. Again, there's no direct damage, so you know they just have to clone when all these units are crossing the river. So right here, Royal Giant may be a bit of an over expenditure, but he's trying to get damage in. He can see that time's ticking down, and this is the moment. Skelly Barrel, Cannon Cart, Witch, all of it cloned. Where do I drop my snowball? Do I fireball? Oh wait, I don't have it. I don't have anything in cycle, and look at the skeletons on the tower, just like that. 2,000 HP eaten up in a second.
And Snowball goes for the skeletons, but the card we mentioned earlier on, that Cannon Cart, does the deed at the end. A really frustrating addition with that second phase after being knocked off his wheels. Gets the finish, and here we are. Azelis 1 game away from a King of the Hill sweep.
So all of this rests on Yarai's shoulder. Obviously, they do have a set in hand. He went 1-1 in King of the Hill the other day, where he took out Trainer Chris, but then fell to Wings.
And again, playing the waiting game to open things up.
And just another fun tidbit, Rich. Every Giant Skeleton Witch clone deck that's been played thus far at CRL, 100% win rate in head-to-head play.
Great. Great. I can't wait to see more of that when I go home and play.
Yeah, super fun.
And Azili is more than happy to respond to that snowball by doing nothing. You know, Andrew, speaking of doing nothing, I spent a week in Montana. Oh, there's a Musketeer.
Heard Montana is beautifully flat for most of it.
It's big sky country. So Lava Hound for Azelis and Giant Skeleton in front of the Musketeer for Yurai. And those barbs should do enough to get over, take care of the Musketeer as well. Guards to cover. Very nice work.
Couple still staying alive, but the Snowball is going to make this a pretty clean defense.
And Miner gets to the back and does a good job tanking for that pup and the Barbarian.
Yeah, it looked real clean for a second there, but that quick heads-up Miner from Azelis just put in about 1,300 damage on the tower, and he knows that Yurai was not expecting that.
Yeah, turning the fire on against his Spanish opponent, and Fisherman does not get to the tower. First 2 minutes away, double elixir time, and Azelis getting closer and closer to a complete domination of Fnatic in this set.
Yeah, and then if you're Fnatic, you got to go and wonder, who do we bring out against him then? Who do we play in the 1v1 set? If all of our guys fell that easily in King of the Hill, who is the one to save the day?
So Graveyard comes down, right-hand lane. Baby Dragon doing an okay job cleaning that up. Goblin Giant trying to support as well.
Yeah, surprisingly, that Brawler did a little bit of cleanup on the Skellies and distracted the Baby Dragon.
I'm not sure if he needed the Miner on that left-hand side, Andrew. I know that it's helping at the moment,
right?
But that's 3 elixir not available to secure the win right now.
So we'll see if he needs that 3 elixir right now. He does get the barbs down, and I do not believe that poison will be enough in time.
Musketeer, can she turn that shot onto the tower? Does not. Miner down. Azelis does it. King of the Hill sweep to open up his fall campaign.
A lot of people think, you know, Azelis is a pro of the past. Yeah, he found a place in 2v2, but his head-to-head isn't there anymore, and that just silenced all the naysayers. 3 up, 3 down, did not break a sweat.
Yeah, Ruben sitting there going, hey, you didn't even get to use me, man. I wanted to get some more games back in. Well, take a seat for a little while, rookie. It's the vet coming out, swinging big, and Fnatic now has to go back to the drawing board and figure out who's going to come out in their 1v1 set. Remember, Faye and Mikkel both off the board. So do you put in Yurai, who's been here before, but who's only 5 and 8 overall in the 1v1 set? Or do you take your new young rookie and put his feet to the fire early and say, hey, you've been impressive so far playing from home. What can you do here?
I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is there. It feels like Yurai is the better choice, but it also feels like Basoto might be the guy that can pull it off. Nothing against Yurai, but right now, Team Queso looks hot. They look on fire, and they can play Azelis or Dark Angel comfortably. They don't need Ruben. They don't need Kuchiku. Benihou is benched. I maybe put in Dark Angel just because Azelis just burned through 3 decks. But again, he did it without breaking a sweat.
Did it without breaking a sweat, and you have to imagine his deck pool goes much deeper. You know, in my opinion, go ahead, keep Azelis on. He's confident, and then bench him for next game. Let him reset his deck pool.
So it looks like it's going to be a rematch of what we just saw in King of the Hill. Azelis coming out with a dominant sweep over Fnatic. Yarai, Fnatic's last chance to get that first victory.
Yeah, I mean, look, you had 2 choices. You had Yarai, you had Basoto, and Basoto just has not had any time yet on this stage. So I am not super surprised by this choice, although a lot of people might say go ahead and put the rookie in, especially considering that he's not currently coming off a loss.
Yeah, you know, I mean, going down 0-2 at the beginning of your season is not the end of the world, but I do understand Fnatic wanting to go with someone who they feel might be more of a sure thing just based off of experience on the big stage. But, you know, he did just lose to this same guy, handedly.
Azelis going Lava Hound one more time, and so does Yarai, so we'll see if this turns into a base race situation.
Yeah. Happens a lot with Lava Hounds.
And the Lava Hounds just taking their sweet time. Not the fastest movers. And Azelis throws the big barbs behind, Miner to the back.
Those barbs could be a real tough thing to deal with. 48 Eyes, Baby Dragon going to be there to help out.
Guards keep them off tower, so
yeah,
decent sequence there for the Spaniard. And pretty even on damage, although Yarai starting to pull ahead.
Yeah, that was a really nice miner to the back. You saw the zap from Azelis to try to mitigate as much damage as he could, but currently behind by about 500 HP.
And now both players getting a little extra on the opposite sides.
So now
first 2 minutes passing away, and now suddenly a slight lead for Azelis.
Yeah, so now we'll see if Azelis decides to play defense and then in turn turn his defensive counter push into offense same lane. And that seems to be the plan, lavaing up in the back.
So Lava Miner for both. The big difference being the Zap versus Snowball choices, and of course, the Barbs versus Guards.
Yeah. So that Lava Hound to Yarai gets through to the tower pretty easily. Azeali's not the exact same case, but both of them still doing a good amount of damage on their opponent's tower.
Oh, wow. Look at that Miner. Turned the Baby Dragon around, but Mega Minion down just in time to stop Disaster from hitting that right-hand tower of Yarai.
Only 44 HP separating these two. Miner, poison, all of it. Yarai just sold out. Now is the moment for Azelis to take advantage of an elixir advantage. Will he actually be able to, though? And he's got to do it quick.
And Yarai just cycling, and Azelis knows it. Azelis knows what just happened. Miner on the tower. That's going to be game one for Yarai.
So now it has to feel completely even. Obviously, Yarai does have a game in hand. Both of these, though, have lost to one another in the last two. So even up in that sense, but Yarai pulling ahead in this third and final tiebreaker set.
Yeah, you talked about that moment where Azelis might be trying to put pressure on, but he was completely out of elixir. Had nothing really to push forward. Maybe the Baby Dragon in the back might have been a little bit presumptive, sitting there thinking maybe he had time to build a push rather than try to go all in and steal it. But in the end, he knew he was going to be outcycled. The poison was coming down. Miner came in beforehand, and that was it.
Yeah, I loved that all-out, sell-out play by Yarai. It ended up paying off very, very well. So now Azelis with an elimination game at his hand. Team Queso trying to hang on.
So game number 2, Azelis needs the win here to extend the match. He's already got 3 under his belt. needs to make it 5 on the day to keep Team Queso with a clean sheet.
Yep. Team Queso looked really, really strong in that first game at 2v2, but then fell 2 in a row. And of course, on the back of Azealis, 3 in a row in King of the Hill.
And Magic Archer doing a good job getting a lot of damage on both troops and the tower.
Yeah, that Royal Ghost was just enough to create some more room.
And Royal Hogs get right to the tower. Dark Prince Snowball combination.
Does feel like the Royal Hogs are firmly back in the meta. This Fireball bait deck. Or they've been showing up a lot in Fireball bait decks, I should say.
So Goblin, Giant, Sparky most likely here for Azealis. And Sparky charged all the way up. Will he drop something in front? And there he goes. Goblin Giant comes out.
Mega Minion to support maybe a Mega Minion of Uri's that Azealis was looking for. Instead, Bats come down. And he needs to get that Sparky off the board, and he needs to do it now, Rich.
Oh, just enough room to keep it off the tower, but might have a shot Snowball. But that's a lot of expenditure. So now, even though defended against the damage, Azealis a significant amount of elixir ahead.
Yeah, 4 elixir lead right now. This is where you got to start pouring it on. Obviously, you don't want to try and sell out this early on based off that lead, but let's see if he can take advantage of it.
And Fisherman in the back at this point, knowing he's not against any troop he's worried about having pulled directly to tower. Not worried about saving that Fisherman to make any sort of King Tower activation play against the next Royal Hogs.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know if I actually agree with that then, Rich. I think that maybe, just maybe, he should use his Fisherman to activate the King Tower against Royal Hogs, Magic Archer, Royal Giant. Anything there to just help support the Royal Hogs defense that he's going to have to be playing would be ideal for Azealis.
And does not get the Royal Ghost off the board with that last spot. This time he does, and now here's what he wants. The Sparky, Goblin Giant in front, Fisherman hoping to grab that Magic Archer. Goblin Cage very well timed by Uri.
Take out the Rascals there, but Royal Giant, or Royal Ghost, excuse me, should be just enough to distract the Sparky long enough to let that Rascal Girl take it out of commission. Might need a Snowball still.
Second Sparky on the board. Magic Archer does clear off the first. And not sure what he has on the left-hand side. Azealis to stop those Royal Hogs. They're about to make this a dangerous 2-lane game.
Yeah, the Rascals doing great work defensively right now. And those Magic Archers will take care of the Sparky, no problem.
And Uri just keeping the pressure on, making Azealis play in both lanes. Sparky now goes to the left, but that tower falls to under 1,000 HP. Azealis is stretched thin, and he knows it.
Yeah, and you saw Azealis try to play the Fisherman off to the left so that he could maybe support that Sparky push, but very distracted by the Royal Hogs. Sparky goes down, and now Azealis is in a ton of trouble.
Royal Hogs left lane. Here we go, right behind that Royal Ghost. As soon as that Sparky comes down, that's what Uri's been doing over and over again.
Yeah, we need that Snowball from Azealis. Not going to happen.
And Magic Archer going to add to the trouble, down to under 600 HP.
Uri is playing perfectly right now, Rich.
Remember, he is still against a Sparky deck. All it takes is one slip up to suddenly lose your tower.
Yep. Sparky relatively healthy still. Maybe be able to sneak a unit in front. No, not able to.
He's playing a little conservative now, Andrew. Knows that any overexpenditure means that Royal Ghost, Royal Hogs push comes in hard. And of course, Magic Archer behind this right-hand tower in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Magic Archer just one tile too far
there
to the
you
right.
go, Andrew.
That is
it. Yarai with the 2-game sweep gives Azilius a taste of his own medicine and closes things out for Fnatic.
And that's exactly what Fnatic needs. They need to take that first 2v2 set in order to loosen up their roster, let them feel a little bit more comfortable. It's okay if they get swept in King of the Hill, apparently, because they take this in 2 games in the 3rd and final set, and now Fnatic 1-1, right back in the thick of it.
You can see just how emotional that game was for Fnatic. Faye, of course, head in hands, and Queso kind of can't believe it. I think they thought that they would come out and dominate in 2v2. They were surprised, and then after Azilius came out and smashed in King of the Hill, it looked like he would be able to carry them in 1v1, and Yarai was dominant through both games.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Kuchi and Ruben came out and they looked great in game 1, and then they just kind of fell a little bit short. All of a sudden, Team Queso roars back into the lead, and that King of the Hill set, Azilius looked unstoppable. I mean, maybe give him a break, I guess, but that's hindsight's 2020. We always talk about going with the hot hand, and yet I just had his number.
Yeah, especially in that last game, kept him spread very thin. And you saw every single time that he went Sparky in the back, Yarai went, cool, I'm going to send 8 Elixir the opposite lane.
Yes.
And sometimes we'll throw the Magic Archer behind and just punish those towers.
And this might seem like a pretty easy tip for people that are, you know, pros or watching a lot of pro play, but a lot of amateurs have a lot of trouble switching lanes. If they got some damage on a tower, they don't want to leave that tower. They want to keep pursuing it. That is not the case. Yarai did the exact opposite, and that's why he came out on top. He kept spreading Azilius thin, and that is why Fnatic took the day.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the action from that match. And a great match it was, going the full 3 sets. And here we are, Queso, Azilius, Fnatic, Yarai, and she's trying to find a way through with the Sparky, just can't do it, Andrew.
Yeah, it's just such great defense there from Yarai. You see the Goblin Cage coming down to protect the Goblin Brawler that's already spawned. All of a sudden, you have 2 Brawlers on the field. Rascals come down, and this is what you're talking about. That big push with 5 Elixir from the Royal Hogs, 3 Elixir from the Royal Ghosts, so much splash damage there to help support, and that is all she wrote. And let's not forget the great Magic Archer plays from Yarai all throughout that game.
It just gets so difficult. You get caught into a rhythm, and it looked like Azilius was, I need to figure out how to mount some offense.
Yeah.
But he kept on doing the same thing, putting that Sparky behind tower, and Yarai just kept being willing to take the exact same sequence. So it ends up with Yarai taking the 2-game win, and of course the match win for Fnatic. So let's go ahead down to the floor where Kelly Link is standing by with Fnatic.
Thank you guys so much. Joining me here, I have Yarai and Jose from Fnatic. Congratulations on that win. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is that Goblin Cage ban. We don't really see that in CRL West. What was the decision behind that?
Well, it was a ban that benefits us so much. We really thought that it was going to work well against Team Queso. The strategy worked around it, and finally it just worked out. So it's fine.
And speaking on the 2v2s, you guys did lose game 1, but game 2 was super aggressive and very close, and you guys were able to turn it around. What exactly changed?
Well, mainly the matchup. The first one was so hard. The second one, I think it was a little bit for us, and it was a deck that we are so good with. We played it last season a lot, and they feel really confident. So we went for it, and we finally won it.
Now, Yarai, after King of the Hill, you guys saw you got swept. It must have been a little scary going again for the rematch in the 1v1. What exactly was your plan to take Azilius down?
Pues aunque él se hiciera la barrida, yo estaba muy cómodo para el 1 versus 1 con los mazos que había entrenado. Y creo que lo jugué bastante bien y que al final conseguí poder la victoria.
Even Azilius swept us in the King of the Hill. He felt so confident and relaxed with his decks because he trained them so much and he felt in a really good level. And at the end, he played really well against Azilius, and he was able to bring us the victory.
Well, congratulations, you
Thank
guys.
you so much.
And thank you all for watching us here, but we're going to head back up to the casters.
Great point there from Yarai. He took a loss, had just seen Azilius run through his entire team, and he still felt confident going into that match, and that's really important. You have to be able to let things go and move on and play the next game.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about these pros that do play. They're very, very emotional players, and honestly, the stone-cold killers out there, those are the ones you don't want on the opposing tower. And Yarai was a stone-cold killer today. I love that he was like, look, I practice these decks relentlessly. All day, every day, I'm going to play what I know best, and he was confident, and it paid off. I mean, he looked completely calm up there, even though everything was on the line.
Yeah, and on the line against a guy you know he's watched in the past.
Yeah.
Azealis is, of course, a veteran, but not just of CRL. He's been around. There was a 2017 where basically every single tournament in Europe was him or Surgical Goblin at number 1 and number 2. So this is a guy you know he's seen him play a bunch, maybe even was a fan of at one point, and now in a big spot with a big couple of wins. That's it for that game. Let's move on to our final match of the day. So here we are, final match of the day, and what a better way to end our opening weekend than a rematch of the spring finals. SK Gaming facing off against Liquid.
I'm so excited. The whole time you were talking, I just wanted to squeal. This is a huge one because SK looked so dominant all last season. They were on top of their game from beginning to end, but then what happens? They get swept by Liquid in the finals to lose first place, and then they had to go be teammates over in China at WCG. They were all great. They all played very well together, but that's the past. This is the present, and Morten and Sam have a lot to prove today after them falling in that 2v2 set.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. And of course, they're going out of the frying pan and into the fire with arguably the most dominant 2v2 duo at the moment of Surgical Goblin and Canario.
Yeah.
This is a team that they swept to open their season with last season in the spring and then ended up getting beat down in finals. So hopefully they can right the ship and make this at least an exciting, tight, back and forth match with our defending champions.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect nothing else. So let's see as these superstars, titans of the game, make their way to the stage. Every single one of them would most likely be in the Clash Royale Hall of Fame, legitimately.
This is really kind of an insane walkout if you look at these two squads. Of course, leading out for SK Gaming, Javi 14 moving over from Fnatic and came out big for SK in their last match, clutching up against Luke Dubs. Joining him, the three members who've carried over from the spring, Morten and Sam, the 2v2 duo, and of course the CCGS world champion, Sergio Ramos.
And that is not a doctored image. Those are real height differences between these two. I think Morten's got a whole foot on Javi 14, and on the other side of it, we've got, of course, Surgical Goblin, Diego B, Surge TS, and Canario. Igor is not quite here yet, but that is still an incredibly stacked lineup. You know Surge and Canario coming out in the 2v2. It's all about what happens in King of the Hill.
Yeah, those two together have been so dominant, and in the same fashion as last season, Surgical Goblin and Canario came out in the first match against Dignitas and said, guys, we got it, and took care of the whole thing on their own. 2-0 sweep in 2v2. Canario coming out in King of the Hill going 1-2-3 as well. So we will see if this reign of terror continues against last season's number 2 squad. And look at that, Andrew, a double NATO ban.
Yeah, very, very curious to see what this implies as we go into our very first game of the 2v2 set. Will we see miners? Will we see Lava Hound? Will we see a bunch of fishermen? Who knows? But one thing I do know is that this is going to be one of the best 2v2 sets you will ever see in the game.
No NATO. We've seen some Balloon be played so far this season in 2v2. Of course, with NATO on the board each time. So maybe we'll see some Balloon pop in. Both these teams very talented, of course, both in kind of different moods right now. Liquid really firing on all cylinders, and SK Gaming seeming a little tentative last time out.
I mean, SK Gaming looked a little too comfortable in that 2v2 set against Código and Pompeo, maybe thinking the rookie was on the towers and they were one of the best 2v2 duos out there. They were just going to steamroll them, but you know what? I know Sam, I know Morten. They're two of the hardest working guys in the game. I can't imagine that's going to happen again, but they are going up against Canario and Surgical Goblin. 21-9 in this set is Canario. 20-12 is Surgical Goblin. So very, very outstanding records by these gentlemen.
Yeah, they are exceptionally nasty players overall, and You know, a lot of players don't do well in both 2v2 and head-to-head play. They kind of focus on one or the other. These are two guys who, no matter where you put them, they are absolute murderers. Of course, they are up against one of the players who has a very high, one of the highest win totals in this set, with 31 wins overall in his 2v2 career for Morten.
Yeah, and Sam only sitting at 19 and 16 in his 2v2 set, still absolutely dominant. SK versus Liquid. Let's do this.
So Surgical, Goblin, and Canario, of course, on tower for Liquid. Morten and Sam, of course, on tower for SK Gaming, as we have been telling you thus far. Morten and Sam on the bottom, Surgical, Goblin, Canario on the top. And already Surge and his teammate getting things going. Miner to the outside, a little low. Guess what? No NATO.
Yep, no NATO, banned by both squads here, but that does mean Giant Skeleton will be rearing its ugly head here in 2v2. Sorry for all you Giant Skeleton lovers out there.
And defensive freeze lets that Lumberjack go to town, clearing 12 Elixir off the board fairly quickly.
Yeah, very, very clean defense from Sam and Morten. See a decent amount of communication going on the SK tower.
First minute away. Aggressive Dark Goblin is trying to steal some damage, only gets one shot in.
And for those of you that don't know, I'd be hard-pressed to hear that you don't, but Morten being one of the best, if not the best bait player in the world. We'll see if he tries to incorporate that at all here in his 2v2 sets, seeing that Dark Goblin.
You know, Andrew, there's a Netherlander across the tower from him who might have something to say about that. Minute and a half away, and so far Team Liquid taking the first big chunk out, 1772 on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it's going to be all about Sam and Morten figuring out how to mitigate the most damage that they can from those Royal Giants. They do have the Goblin Cage, but they're not going to want to use the freeze time after time defensively. It just doesn't provide a lot of defensive utility for 4 Elixir.
And it is Balloon for SK Gaming. We'll see if they can get to tower.
So Log does come in, but damage done. 1264 remains.
And again, Balloon, this time Miner does get out in front. And Zap not gonna quite do it. Death damage does get there though, and now SK Gaming making things close. Liquid still in the lead in the final 30 seconds of regulation.
So there is the defensive freeze that SK is forced to use. They are going to need to figure out a way, maybe a Log. Yep, there's the Log. Royal Giant not gonna get a hit. Very well played defense, but can they do that time and time again when they'll be rotating Royal Giants as both Surge and Canario are holding it in their hands?
They took a lot of Inferno burn on that right-hand side, Andrew. Only got into the second tier, but still down to 1539 as well, so they need to be careful about those Inferno Dragons.
Yeah. Yeah, you think you want to focus all your attention, of course, on the Royal Giant, but those Inferno Dragons, when left alone, are devastating.
Lock takes care of the Dark Goblin, and now Royal Giant on the tower. One big shot, 12:01. Is there a balloon coming here? Potentially. Lumberjack does get picked up and down under 1,000 HP, but now a big counter push about to build from the Liquid side.
Yeah, this is going to be a very telling moment here between the two squads. If SK can defend this cheaply, which they do very cheaply thus far. So they have Goblin Cage and Log available.
And they split, and they're able to hold off most of the damage right now, but the Log takes up the Dark Goblin. Freeze defensively, saves the tower from a whole lot of RG damage.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Rich, I believe that freeze just saved the game. Miner to the back is picked up, but that opens up room for the Lumberjack. That is very, very close. Maybe a big spell as the 8th card in Sam's hand.
If it is, I expect we'll see it in just a moment. RG Giant Skeleton one more time. Dark Goblin on the outside. Lumberjack, Freeze, taking care of business, not doing anything risky right now is SK Gaming.
Yeah, you know, and I really, really applaud SK Gaming. I talked early on about how I don't believe they should continue to use their freeze over and over because they probably want it on offense, but they've done the damage without. Ideally, they would, yes, freeze the tower, get a balloon hit in, but playing it on defense, much, much better. Sam and Morton come out on top.
It looked for a moment like they were in a lot of trouble, but made some good mid-game adjustments. And again, it was that defensive freeze in conjunction with the Lumberjack ended up being a good, positive elixir trade.
Yes, and those very, very nice last-second logs to create just a little bit more room, delay that Royal Giant for just a second longer. Very, very well played. As you just said, Canario and Surgical Goblin need to figure out what they did wrong because it did feel like they were in control for so long, but then all of a sudden you looked over at the top right, and it was when you said that tower's below 1,000 HP, it was just death damage after death damage with miners in there. Great, great work from SK.
Well, one Lumberjack snuck through, got a couple of big shots, and that changed the momentum in that moment and led us to where we are. SK Gaming now potentially opening up this season the same way they did last time with a 2v2 win over Liquid.
So a very big second game coming up here for both squads, but I put the weight here on SK because if they take this game, if they take the set, I give them the match advantage because that frees up Javi Catorce to play in his favorite set. You've got Morton, you've got Sam to play, and you have Sergio Ramos. The thing is Canario and Surgical Goblin are not available for the 1v1 set, and I give Javi the edge over the other two players on Liquid.
It's a very interesting thought to reach, Andrew, and of course, Surge and Canario have been so good as a tandem in King of the Hill, so having that cushion, very nice, but that cushion very quickly evaporating. Left-hand side, opening 52 seconds, tower down, Team Liquid.
Yeah, that was perfect. Now the miner is there, so it can do a little bit of tanking for the pup. Zap comes in, and most of the damage is going to be mitigated. Team Liquid out, screaming ahead.
Oh,
wow.
Hold your horses there a bit, Andrew, down to 748. So Team Liquid, yes, has the advantage right now, has the tower down, but took a lot on that right-hand side. SK Gaming not out of this one yet.
Yeah, if you saw the look on Surge's face after that baby dragon was done doing its damage, I think he was just as confused as I was, seeing that that dragon brought it so far down. They had the zap, they took care of the miner, but baby dragon plus a few of those pups doing an insane amount of work for Morton and Sam.
Lava Inferno behind for SK. Giant Skelly Inferno behind for Liquid. A little reset there with the snowball. Lightning behind, and next thing you know, we're about even.
I really, really like using the snowball first. I think that's the smarter play to reset the Inferno Dragon, wait till your opponent drops another unit to give you more lightning spell value, then drop the lightning. Very well done.
RG Giant Skelly again for Canario and Surgical Goblin.
So one thing here that you and I have talked about since Season 1, Rich, is now you got to think about that sneaky Royal Giant in the pocket. You've got Goblin Cage, you've got Log, so those are very easy ways to distract it, but there it is.
There it is, and the moment you drop 7 elixir offensively, RG in the pocket, huge chunk, and that's a big moment for Liquid with just 35 seconds left in regulation.
Yeah, a ton of damage coming in there, so now you can expect probably a snowball to reset. They decide to go lightning first now because of the Ice Wizard.
And Fireball trying to clear away for that Giant Skeleton who is all the way on tower, and I don't believe there's a Fisherman for SK Gaming. They're going to take a Giant Skeleton Bomb on their King Tower.
Yeah, and they're trying to just sell out, but that may have been too much, but that cleared a room for the Inferno Dragon.
Oh, and he is on zap, resets down to 182, but that's within big spell range. SK Gaming just needs to get something on that tower to take this 2v2 set. They do it!
And they knew it. They put the Goblin Cage down in the pocket. I love that heads up. Preventative play, no way for the Royal Giant to get in, and Sam and Morton may have fallen to Código and Pompeo of Cream, but they take down Surgical and Canario in 3.
They did that one in
2,
They did that one in 2, Andrew. That was a clean sweep, so Canario and Surgical Goblin falling to the guys that they put a clinic on back in the Western Finals for the spring season, and that has to feel very, very good for Morten and Sam.
And now you've got 4 guys that are ready to go for King of the Hill, and obviously, Javi is available for the 1v1 set. So is Sergio Ramos, the former world champion. This is going to be a tough hill to climb for Team Liquid.
Yeah, and we still do have a King of the Hill set, and as we all know, Canario, Surgical Goblin have done it in King of the Hill many times.
Yep.
Diego B obviously plays very well in King of the Hill. Surge TS, a good head-to-head player, just coming off his Moreno Cup victory, but you have, again, probably going to see Sergio Ramos, probably going to see Morten, and probably going to see, or definitely going to see, Javi Catorze in that King of the Hill set.
Yeah, and that is not a 3-person lineup that you want to see in King of the Hill. Of course, you do have Surgical Goblin, Canario, Diego B, and Surge TS on the other side of it, but with a set in hand for SK, the pressure is on. What is Liquid going to do? What's the lineup going to be? Probably started off with Canario as he went 3 up, 3 down very easily in their first match.
So let's go ahead and take a look at what these teams have in store. King of the Hill lineups, this is going to be a big one. So opening things up for SK Gaming will be the CCGS International World Champion Sergio Ramos, followed by Javi Catorze, and then the mad scientist himself, OP Sam. Across from him, the former Giant Slayer turned Giant Canario, fresh off a 3-game King of the Hill sweep, then Surgical Goblin, and cleaning up, if necessary, Diego B.
This is going to be quite the King of the Hill set. So let's get into game number 1. Sergio Ramos at the bottom of your screen, Canario at the top. Sergio looking to take that first game away from Canario in this CRL Fall split.
And Sergio Ramos came out in their first match with a nice 2-1 King of the Hill appearance, taking out Luke Dubs and Codigo before falling to Lince. And Flying Machine for Flying Machine.
And Canario with a Witch.
Yep.
See if this deck stays perfect or not.
And hello.
So here we go. This deck will finally find its first loss.
Oh, I can't wait. Two skeletons give each other some dap. And 1 down. And it looks like the better of that exchange will go to Sergio Ramos.
Yeah, very healthy Witch still on the board. Decides to go with the early clone.
Now this is interesting, Andrew. Neither of these decks comes usually with a spell, so this is a big moment, and I gotta figure how do they deal with these clones once they break through. Not a lot of splash on either side. I think the Furnace might give Sergio Ramos the advantage.
Yeah, I think the Furnace definitely gives Sergio the slight edge, and I think, as you were saying, you got to play very, very intelligent Clash Royale here. Oh, well, never mind.
There you go.
You got to play very smart Clash Royale here because you've got to utilize your Witch and your Skeleton Barrel defensively. I know that seems a bit odd, but if you get your Skeleton Barrel to drop or pop on top of your unit's cloned skeletons, that is a great way to get some splash damage in and still have units on the board when neither guy here has a spell. So, I mean, well, a direct damage spell. We have clone, obviously.
Here we go, double elixir time, and right now Sergio Ramos in the lead, but that could change in the blink of an eye.
See that Giant Skeleton coming down immediately to protect his Flying Machine. You've got to protect your Witch and your Flying Machine. Those are the keys to victory when running this deck.
Lumberjack down for Canario, making a beeline for that Furnace, and the Furnace does not quite go down. Will Fire Spirits help? They are not quite there. Yes, look at that.
Wow.
Beautiful tornado play by Sergio Ramos. Saves a lot of damage from that tower.
Yeah, you saw the high Skelly Barrel doing a little bit of what I was talking about, but the true savior of the day for Sergio was that great tornado.
And Fisherman from Canario looking to pick up something in support, maybe expecting that there might have been a cannon cart there earlier. Instead, pulls across the Giant Skeleton.
And right now, Sergio is playing this near perfect.
In a good position right now, and look at that NATO.
Could be huge, Rich. He does miss the clone on the Skelly Barrel, but it doesn't matter. Those skeletons are getting tanked for by the Flying Machine. That is gonna do it.
Wow, Sergio Ramos pulling a fast one. Witch on the inside, and he goes, guess what?
Yeah.
I have Tornado, opposite lane, opening up a clear path to the tower. Game number 1, SK.
It is unbelievable how strong it is when you NATO a high DPS or a cleanup unit to the opposite lane. All of a sudden, your opponent goes, where did my 4 elixir, 5 elixir, if it's a witch, go? Well, not the correct direction, nothing to do. So Sergio here wants to talk to his coach about how he can send this one home for SK. Surgical Goblin up next, and then Diego B if necessary for Liquid.
Seems like a very rare momentary loss of focus for Canario. We just saw the Tornado maybe a few plays earlier, and then he makes that play with the Witch in front of the King Tower, and you're almost asking for a Tornado at that point.
I mean, that's really the only thing you can call it is a mistake, which it feels almost wrong because we're talking about Canario here, so it's like, well, maybe he had a plan. Well, I don't think so in this case. As you just said, the NATO came down moments before, and that is just a very, very dangerous place to play any of your cards. Honestly, you might as well play them behind your Princess Tower.
So there you have it. Sergio Ramos, 1 game in hand. Up next for Liquid, Surgical Goblin.
Well, you said it just a moment ago, Rich. Surgical Goblin up on the tower, and at the top of your screen, he throws out the good luck to Sergio Ramos, who ends Canario's reign of terror in the King of the Hill set in a odd, almost mirror match. What a great NATO that was.
It was pretty cool. Surgical Goblin cycles log, Ice Wiz to the right-hand side, immediate high battle ram, and fish slapped.
Fisherman there just in close enough range to pull it into the Ice Wizard. Very, very well played. And a lot getting tanked for by that Royal Giant. Royal Giant getting pulled over. If you want to rewind that at home, you can check out exactly where to place your Fisherman to make your Royal Giant switch lanes. Such an incredible, incredible ability of that card. The only card in the game that can actually make the Royal Giant switch lanes. NATO is not able to do that.
And Fireball gets some good value, but not until a lot of damage on the tower. But that was purposeful. Surgical Goblin knew, just let those barbs pop and then wipe them off the board.
Yeah, you saw the grimace on his face knowing that that's the best way to mitigate the most damage, but it never feels good to take a battle ram charge.
First minute and a half away. Sergio Ramos putting the screws to Team Liquid right now.
Yeah, there were a lot of question marks out there about Sergio Ramos at the beginning of the spring season, excuse me, and all of those doubts were quickly out of our minds when we saw that that man was still on top of his game.
This might surprise a lot of you watching at home, especially given Surgical Goblin's performance last season, but his career record in King of the Hill is a negative win rate of 8-10. A lot of that courtesy to the challenging Season 1 he had in the European region.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, same with the 1v1 set. He played a lot of 1v1 in that first season, and he was 9-7. So someone who is, you know, kind of regaled as one of, if not the best player in the world, has really struggled a bit in his head-to-head play as of late.
RG again on the left-hand side. We know that opening season, Andrew and CRL EU definitely struggled head-to-head, but of course, talking about that record, King of the Hill, he went 1-6 in that first season, but then turned it around and went 7-4 in our spring split. So gotten himself back on track, but of course, it's that 2v2 duo of him and Canario that have really changed the fates of Team Liquid. Here we go, Baby Dragon on tower, Poison down as well.
And if Poison's all you got, you know the Surge is about to pour it on here, Rich. I mean, he can maybe go aggressive Royal Giant at the river to try to do a tower race, but that is ill-advised. He's going to go for defense in the moment.
Sergio Ramos trying to cycle.
Can he get the pull?
And he does, gets to the opposite lane.
Fireball in, and that was insane. Sergio Ramos saw that slip through his fingers, and honestly, Surgical knows he got away with one.
Wow, what a close finish. Probably want to take a look at that again if we can. It was so wild, so close. Both players now within spell range, but Poison could not get down fast enough for Sergio Ramos.
The issue was, I think that poison that Sergio Ramos threw down just moments before the Royal Giant was dropped was just a little bit of an overspend. He may have needed that for defense, maybe got the E was down a second early, then the Fisherman could have pulled. However, Surgical saw that poison came down basically on nothing and just went all out.
So all evened up in King of the Hill. One giant takes out another, then another giant takes out another, and here we are, two more giants, Javi Catorze and Surgical Goblin. But first, let's look at that finish one more time, just how close it was. Andrew.
So here you go. You see there the King Tower activation by Surge, and all of a sudden a fireball on the Baby Dragon is all he has in response, and that is the poison I'm talking about right there. Poison, zap, just selling out, thinking maybe he can get one more Baby Dragon belch in, but that is not the case. You see here Surge playing slow, calm, calculated Fisherman for defense, and right there, the Fisherman he's taken one step too far to the right. Ewiz not coming down quick enough. Stuns the Royal Giant. Royal Giant does switch lanes, but log, fireball, game over.
Yeah, the Ewiz just took, was down a half second early, took one step the wrong direction, opened up the door, RG, log, fireball, win, and here we are, game number 3, Javi Catorze facing off against Surgical Goblin.
Yeah, this is going to be a great one. Just to remind you, Javi Catorze is 3-1 in his head-to-head plays so far. Surgical now picking up his first head-to-head victory.
The mood is tense in the room. It's been loud, it's been quiet. Right now, you can almost hear a pin drop. Surgical Goblin and Javi Catorze about to go head-to-head.
Both of them cycling some cheap spells to start.
Such a hard choice right now between probably the more viable overall defensive card of Snowball, especially with Ram Rider and Balloon being prevalent, versus Zap, which does give you the reset capability, and of course that fun mechanic if a Fisherman almost certainly appears.
Yeah. Lightning comes in, and then you get the Baby Dragon up high to preserve the HP of the Mega Minion as it does higher single target DPS. So a nice sequence there for Javi.
And Miner to the front.
He does miss the Baby Dragon pull with those skellies. And the BM well played coming out from Surge.
So Lava Miner for Surgical Goblin. Javi Catorze playing it nice and slow. And Surge goes ahead and banks up, and Golem opposite direction immediately for Javi.
This is going to be a really interesting matchup here, because Surge does not have a lot of ground responses. Javi has a quick cycle, a couple air defenses. Lightning obviously is a great card in there for him to help support against the Inferno Dragon. I'm going to say probably wishing he had those skellies at that moment.
And there you go. So little fish action, skeleton support, and now Javi Catorze moving heavy in the left-hand lane.
Yeah, that is probably going to be enough to put that tower well within. Well, nope, just going to straight up take it.
And another Fisherman pulls the Miner off the tower. So if he can deal with this Baby Dragon, Javi Catorze may have just taken a big step towards putting Surgical Goblin back on the bench.
And here's the thing, is now he can golem up in the exact same lane that he's playing into, if necessary, but honestly, he's probably going to spend most all his elixir on strict defense, maybe then drop a golem in the pocket for a counter push. And look at that, the early Fisherman played to pick up the Miner, but just a little bit outside, Rich.
And that's 2 times we've seen that now, where the Fisherman just gets there a little early, walks away. Both of these against Surgical Goblin from SK Gaming.
So Surgical with full elixir knows he has to play some pretty stout defense. Once again, he doesn't have a lot of high single target DPS, other than, of course, this Inferno Dragon. but Snowball and Lightning in play. Skelly's coming down. Great distraction.
Smooth move there. You hear some oohs and ahs from the other players sitting in the wings and watching. Golem on tower now.
And he does have enough elixir for Lightning. Will he drop it?
Not a lot of high-value troops for a Lightning there. Decides to hold off, and Golem's up one more time, but immediate Lava Inferno left-hand lane from Surgical.
And once again, the mini Pekka to pull away, but the Inferno Dragon is turned around. He's going to need Skellies. There they are.
This deck does cycle much faster than you usually see out of a Golem deck.
Surge doing the correct thing and preserving his elixir for defense as opposed to sending in a miner. But if that Golem pops, yes, it does. That is a lot of damage.
Down to 456, 2 minutes left in sudden death overtime. Lava Hound in the pocket. Surgical Goblin trying to take one.
And you can just hear all the other pros here losing their minds. That is not going to be enough to take the tower. How will Javi respond?
Fireball comes down, trying to clean out some extra room, down to 1071 as we move into the final 90 seconds.
Not quite to that 8 elixir yet. Maybe a Golem in the pocket when he hits it. Yeah, actually, sorry, no, you cannot Golem in the pocket right now because the Goblin Cage can pull the King Tower, so that is definitely the better move.
And uses the Goblin Cage to turn back around, giving that Inferno Dragon some extra time to burn. Lightning will not clear it off the board. Mega Minion makes some room.
Oh.
Miner's not going to be enough.
Surge
this is going to be it.
That is it. The burst there, now within lightning range. Very well played by Javi 14. Such a mind game back and forth. The kiting with the mini Pekka, the Goblin Cage, the skeletons. That was beautiful, Clash Royale.
And you felt for a moment when you saw that Fishman go away and not do a job against the Lava Hound that maybe Javi had given up a big moment, but bigger tank versus slightly smaller flying tank, fast cycle. Javi plays great Clash Royale and takes the win over Surgical Goblin.
Yeah, I mean, that game was honestly a lot closer than it should have been. Had that Fisherman been dropped just a half a second or maybe a second later in the original, not overtime, excuse me, in regulation play, maybe would have picked up the miner, maybe would have preserved the Princess Tower. However, Javi is able to stay on top. Takes down Surgical Goblin. Diego B is up next, and he is Team Liquid's last line of defense.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that Team Liquid is one game away from a 2-set sweep loss. But again, this is what happened last season against SK Gaming. Can Diego B rewrite the script?
So here we are. Liquid up against the ropes, but Diego B has pulled this off before in very high-pressure situations.
Javi's career stands at 23-10 in King of the Hill now. Kind of an astounding stat line. Diego B at an even 8-8.
Yeah, I mean, Javi has played so many head-to-head games. It is astounding. 32 losses and 57 wins.
That's bananas.
That range is crazy.
Fishman
has
really is
a longer range than the Musketeer by a half a tile.
And Javi is trying to put a little bit of pressure on here. I don't know if he thinks that skeleton's going to get there, and it does. So gets a shot from one of the skeletons going coast to coast.
Yeah, and that is more than enough that you'd ask out of that skeleton. 2 hits and a snowball. That is a great cheap offense. And the cycle of this deck is going to be very difficult to keep up with. However, wow.
However, Graveyard does a lot of damage.
Yeah, it really does. Be curious to see if Diego is also running poison, because as we get in double elixir time, Javi's going to have a very difficult time defending against the Graveyard with these troops that are very easily spellable.
So, first minute and a half away. Diego B firmly in the lead.
Javi goes aggressive opposite lane with the balloon. Probably going to get a hit in.
And Miner right to the Musketeer. That's a big balloon hit.
Yeah.
Giant Skeleton, though, making a beeline to the right-hand side. Javi cycles quickly, but oh, here we go. King Tower activation.
I was going to say, man, we all know how much Javi hates that Giant Skeleton. Is it going to get the best of him once again? And this is what I was talking about. You see Javi worried about the big spell, decides to go with a Hunter instead of Bats plus Skellies, which is a very effective and cheap response, but as I mentioned, very, very spellable.
So balloon opposite lane now. Miner doesn't quite, there you go, does get to the Musketeer.
And that's just echoing the sentiment I spoke on earlier, Rich, is even though he's got a ton of damage in the left, if his opponent's going to start stacking units on the left, you have to be comfortable switching lanes.
And again, this balloon cycle deck moving around the horn very fast. And look at this,
Yeah.
Miner Skelly's push opposite lane, Bats as well.
And look at that, Skelly hits her in. That is a huge push, Rich.
You're so used to seeing that Miner Bats combo pulled off. Miner Skeleton's nowhere near as common.
So the high Ice Golem to preserve the HP of his tower, tanking or keeping the tank out of play for Diego B's Graveyard.
And that balloon might get a hit. Yes, it does. You see Diego B letting out a big breath there.
But, oh, snowball in early, so these bats will do work.
And you got to imagine, I don't know, is there a, but might have seen a poison in that moment if there was one,
Yep.
and Diego B knows he's in trouble.
Yeah, there's just no way to get around this. Miner gonna tank for the balloon after the Ice Golem falls down. There is the big bomb drop and a big time repeat of history. SK sweeps Liquid in 2 sets.
And Javi Catorze came out after his teammate Sergio Ramos went down to Surgical Goblin and said, look guys, you might be the biggest name players in the game, but no one can deny what I've done in the last year.
And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Obviously, I respect Canario, Surgical, and Diego B to the utmost, but here's the thing. When you lose that first set, if Sam and Morten take that set and you're playing against SK, there is just such a mountain of talent ahead of you in those guys that you just mentioned, Rich. It almost seems unwinnable at that point.
And the addition of Javi Catorze to this squad is so wild.
Yeah.
You already had a team that was so good last season, finishing top of the rankings at the end of the regular season, finishing number 2 in the playoffs. Number 2, by the way, for the second time in a row for SK Gaming, and then to add Javi to that squad.
And here's the other thing is Sam was still there. Someone who we actually haven't talked about as much this season at fall season or spring season of CRL West, because not having bans in 1v1s has inhibited his deck building just a little bit, but he's still 6-1 in 1v1 sets. He's still 12-8 in King of the Hill. So that is a very scary squad. And with Javi Catorze there now, whew, everyone else has been put on notice.
Yeah, especially after a win like that. So 2 matches down for SK Gaming, 2 big-time wins,
Yeah.
and 2 big-time wins where you have to thank your Spanish superstar.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Cream looked like they might have had it because they took that 2v2 set away. But as you just mentioned, Javi Catorze came to play. Ever since the first season when people kind of talked about him as not being a great player, and then we heard about the amount of time he put in, like 12 hours practicing a day, carrying Vivo Key to the World Finals, getting 2nd place, and he has been growing exponentially since then. Not a guy that's taken a step back, only steps forward.
Well, let's not forget the contribution that Sergio Ramos has made over these last 2 matches, opening up the King of the Hill 2-1 yesterday, and then today getting another, that all you need is 1 victory in King of the Hill to make yourself have pulled your weight. So Sergio Ramos now with 3 big wins that have been massive for his squad. Let's go down to the floor where Kelly Link is standing by with our winners.
Thank you guys so much joining me here, the 2v2 duo, Morten and Sam. Now, obviously, we got to talk about that. This is a rematch from the playoffs. What exactly have you guys been doing to prepare for this match to take down Team Liquid?
Honestly, we haven't specifically prepared for Team Liquid. We just prepared for each CRL game. We count every enemy and everybody is hard to beat, so we just gave all our best and we got it.
Well, going off that game 1, that freeze lumberjack that was able to save you guys some time and turn it around, what was the communication going on during that moment?
We practiced this matchup a lot. We expected Giant Skeleton ban, but then they didn't ban. Giant Skeleton banned Native, so we expect them to play Giant Skeleton. It's pretty hard for us to defend Giant Skeleton Royal Giant without a big troop or something. So we had to freeze it and play Lumberjack on that, and it worked pretty well.
But going into game 2, Team Liquid took a tower down under a minute, and you guys were still able to turn that around in your favor. How were you guys able to keep cool and make it in your favor?
I mean, we did not have the best hand to defend in the beginning. That's why we lost the tower. But we knew we could make the comeback. And so we just played calm, played how we always do, and got it.
Now, obviously, these guys took you down in the playoffs, so it must feel pretty good to take them down here in the fall season. What are your feelings coming off of that match?
Sure, like Team Liquid is one of the best team, maybe the best team right now, so it feels good for sure. But yeah, we have to continue with like that, and yeah, we want to win the league.
Well, guys, congratulations on that win there against Team Liquid. And everyone, we might be done for the day, but we're not done just yet because we're heading back to the casters.
Thanks a lot, Kelly, and no surprises here. SK Gaming, all business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you at home that can't tell, that is Sam's excited, elated, ecstatic face. Now, it looks very similar to his angry death face, but I can assure you that was excitement.
So a big-time win for SK Gaming, a repeat of last season.
Yeah.
Early in the season, 2-0 win over Team Liquid. And you, of course, saw Team Liquid not happy about the loss, but you don't worry about it as much as you may have at this time back in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's only the second match so far here in the fall, and it's against a very, very strong SK team, a new and improved SK team, if you will. And honestly, I could watch that match or that game between Javi and Surge over and over and over. The small, intricate details of their micro interactions was out of this world.
Yeah, that might be game of the weekend. And speaking of game of the weekend, we have plenty of games. And of course, that was a big part of our Sunday. Let's look at our results. We started off with Complexity taking a 2-0 win over Energy, getting themselves into the win column. And then Immortals adding a second Lapo-less victory over Cream Esports this time.
Yeah, and Fnatic evens things up with Team Queso here. Both squads 1-1. And of course, as we've been speaking about, SK Gaming sweeps the former champions of Team Liquid.
So a lot of Clash Royale played in our opening weekend, although what still might be early. We have had some pretty big shifts, and some teams exactly where you thought they would be.
Yeah.
Some teams maybe not quite where you expected. So, Andrew, let's take a look at our standings as they are after our opening weekend.
So as you can see here, SK Gaming screams to the top of our standings. Immortals right behind them. No big surprise there, but a bit surprising here. Misfits Gaming in third place. Now, they do only have one game in hand. Pain following them, also one game in hand. Team Queso now 1-1 in fifth place as we get to the bottom half of our standings. We're going to see here Complexity, Team Liquid, and Fnatic all 1-1, but you can see there the game differential gives Complexity the edge. Tribe in ninth place at 0-1, still looking for their first victory. And of course, Dig, still only one game played, one game lost. Cream Esports and Energy 0-2 through 2.
So there you have it after our Saturday and Sunday. Things starting to shape up, and of course, we are back here every single Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. in the East, 1 p.m. in the West. Strike that, reverse it. 10 out here in Los Angeles and 1 p.m. over there in New York City. I'm Rich Slayton. That's Andrew Guy. Uptown Funk is my kid's favorite song. Am I supposed to mention him on here anymore? I think we might have to bust that one.
Happy birthday, Jack!